sometimes we're so caught up in here and there that we need to press pause and go, holy shit, look at the gap. Look of where I came from. Do not say, I'm going to do something Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. If you say, I'm going to go on a weight loss journey, I'm using it because it's easy. Fucking start right now. Just start. My therapist and I joke because the biggest thing she had to get me over was, you might be right, but are you effective? And so as a gift to her when she retired, I might have been wrong, but I was damn effective. I would say it is a subtle brilliance that I've learned throughout life on how to do this, is to take the mirror off and turn it. My driving force was a simple mantra that I still use to this day. Choose your hard.
Welcome back to Hard Knocks. This time, we have a really raw and special one for you. We're talking with Jack Hojnar, one of John's longtime personal friends, who from worldly standards has been wildly successful, from riding the dot-com boom to starting new companies and having them acquired. But in typical Hard Knocks fashion, we spend our time talking about all these struggles and the wisdom that he learned along the way through his own divorce and attempted suicide. This episode is not for the faint of heart, but it truly is beautiful as we end up unpacking true wisdom, such as one of my favorites he gives, which is, in life, you have to choose your hard.
Yeah. So, Jack, welcome to Colorado.
Thank you.
Again, because you lived out here for a while. And at some point, we'll probably talk about how we met and worked together, and I'm sure the storyline. But
do you miss how dry it is out here, by the way? Do you miss that? Because I get shocked by electricity about every 30 seconds.
It's so funny you said that, because I have been over, I don't know if you know some water I drink at breakfast.
No.
I can instantly feel how dehydrated I am.
Really?
When I got off the plane. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've got tons of lip balm and stuff like that, unless you're sponsored by Chapstick.
Yeah.
Oh, Chat.
There's 3 cameras. Choose which one.
Right?
You can make our editor's life a nightmare.
It is crazy dry. And I brought those beat up sunglasses. Clearly remember how the sun never hides here.
Yeah.
It's always up. So
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And being that much closer to the sun, like today, let's see, right now it's 19 degrees. When I went to pick you up at the airport, it was 2 below.
Yep.
Right. And you get in the sun and you're like, wait a minute, I got the air conditioning on in my car.
Right. Yeah. Isn't it crazy?
Weird.
It's so weird. Beautiful though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
my daughter lives in Seattle. I'm going to be there after this.
Yeah.
Forecast is rain. I have never, if you've been to Seattle at all, I've never seen Mount Rainier ever, because it's always been cloudy and rainy there. I couldn't live like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway.
Yeah.
You had an idea. And
so here's what I was thinking.
Worst guest ever.
No. That's not the idea I was thinking about. The idea I was thinking about is, when you think about these neural networks, how your brain works, it's a really interesting visual, I think, of how life is. That you're kind of going along one of these little nerve endings, and then you come to this real bright spot. To me, that's like the time that you have to make a decision. Something happened in your life.
Synapses.
Thank you. And you have an opportunity to go on path A, path B, path C, whatever it is. And generally, you're not going to go back, right? And so if you were to rank all of those major crossroads in your life, I'd like you to think about the one that is by far the most profound in your life, and tell me what happened.
So I hate you right now. For anyone that's watching, I have 2 solid pages of notes based upon questions you sent, and then you asked me a question I wasn't prepared for.
But I know you. You are extemporaneous just as an individual.
You know what? There wasn't one.
Okay.
There were several milestones that some were traumatic.
Okay.
Some were real traumatic.
Well, pick one. We'll probably get to all of them.
I'm going to really start here, because it uncovered itself in therapy.
Yeah.
When I was 10 years old, I've always been, one of the questions you guys pushed through here was, you always seem very positive and upbeat. So I've always been that way as a kid.
Yeah.
When I was 10 years old, I had someone pick on me, shoved food in my face. I saved up back when I was 10 to get 25. If you had 25 cents, it got you Hostess cupcakes, right?
Okay.
So I saved up money to get 2.
Yeah, the
And
chocolate
so,
ones with a little
yep,
squirrel
the
on
squirrel
top.
on top.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
yes. We'll
And
get some after.
I saved up 50 cents. You know,
Yeah.
I had to do chores to get that money. We all went out with friends. I get them, and these guys that I with I thought were cool shoved them in my face. And I remember coming home, and my dad got mad at me and said, "Why didn't you punch him back?"
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know those responses back then.
Right.
What's interesting is years later, it came out in therapy that was the one thing that set me off in this retribution cycle, where whenever someone did something to me, it wasn't just I'm going to rise above it, I'm going to crush you. And so I actually ran into that kid as a senior in high school. He was a big kid when we were little, because I was a little kid, and he was now only maybe 5'7" and 5'5". And I was a senior in high school, and I had ballooned up to 6 feet, 200 pounds from playing football. And my first instinct was to take his face and throw it into a wall. But what came out in therapy was that moment, because when you're 10 years old, if you can indulge me for a second, my sister taught 5th grade. And that's when you transition from 4th to 5th to 6th. So she taught 5th grade, and she said that was the biggest pivot point for most kids.
Oh, without question.
Because you're going from being these
Yeah.
innocent 4th
Especially
graders
girls. It's
Yep.
horrible.
to then finding yourself.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
so that's when competitive sports starts to kick in. Typically, you're getting ready for middle school sports, etc.
Oh yeah.
And so she said, "Angels, assholes." She used to always say, in a nice way,
Mhm.
right? And so that's why it's so profound that I was 10 and in 5th grade when all this stuff happened,
Right.
because I thought everybody was nice, and it was my first time experiencing someone really taking advantage of me. So
Right.
how about that for a starting point?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, does that work?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
You want more now?
Well, yeah, I'd like to know. So that was an event, and you're saying later you met this kid when you were in high school, but what was the downhill effect on that through your life? I mean, what did that eventually teach you? Did that come out again? You know, those events, as far as I know, I'm not a shrink, but for the therapy I've been through, those are things that just come back over and over and over again until you're able to um, overcome them. Right?
Yeah.
You start to recognize, like, oh, okay, this is how this is going to be. Now I know how to react. Right?
Yep.
I've matured through that.
Well, it took 40 years to get there, but still. So if we do a little bit of this chronology, what it taught me was 2 things. I'll try to go down these parallel paths.
Yeah.
I learned that I couldn't trust people anymore like I thought I could.
Right.
A downside was that it caused a rift between me and my dad. Because what I got a lot of was, why didn't you punch it? Why did you fight back?
Right.
And by the way, to be sure, as a 59-year-old man now, my dad and mom did the best they could.
Yeah.
We know as parents, we did the best we could.
Right.
And so I look at their reaction to my life circumstances less through the lens that you do as a kid, which is the world revolves around you.
Right.
And as opposed to the other way around, you actually are part of the world. So anyway, I say that because it started causing me to really have a bad relationship with my father,
Mm-hmm.
because then it was, why aren't you standing up more? And that wasn't my instinct.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting to high school and tried out for the football team just because I wanted to participate in something.
Yeah.
And I was tiny. I was 5'9", 120 pounds, maybe 5'7", 120 pounds, and found people picking on me again. And so all of that flashback kept coming back to that cupcake in my face. And what was interesting, if you've gone through any kind of therapy, which I highly encourage people to do, it's not for everybody, but it worked for me. There's this therapy, I don't know what it's called, I think it's EMT or something like that, where they tap you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You guys are smarter than me. You would know what it is.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of it
remember what
before.
is.
But it's something where you focus on, they'll
Mhm.
tap your
Or like
say-
electromagnetic therapy or something like that?
No, a therapist will tap your knees back and forth. And so that rhythmic tapping kind
Interesting.
of clears your brain so you can
Right.
focus more. And it worked for me, at least. It's
Yeah.
not hypnosis.
Yeah.
It just changes your focus. And what
Yeah.
came out was this 10-year-old boy.
Okay.
And she kept saying, what would you say back to him? And it was essentially Goodwill Hunting. It's not your fault. You
Yeah.
didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But for years, I carried that with me. So now I become 13 years old. I get picked on again.
Right.
And again, I want you to understand, in my soul, I'm always this happy, silly kid that believes in the best of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm not having any success with it. Okay. I'm not being effective, at least not the way I felt was being affected.
Right.
And so between the summer of freshman and sophomore year, I put on 40 pounds of muscle and I grew to 5'11". And suddenly, no one fucked with me. It's the best way to say it. No one picked on me.
Yep.
And then what became my persona was this evangelist for the people that didn't have advocates. Um, Senior year, I got suspended from school because there was a senior who was picking on a freshman, wouldn't stop. And I'm not going to say his last name, but his name's Dan. And to this day, when we've been to reunions, he'll go, I can't believe you did this. I went, Dan, you have 5 seconds to knock it off, or I'm throwing you in a locker. Threw him in his locker, put his padlock on, and went to class. So what came out of therapy was it was all this 10-year-old boy. So
Right.
my dad called me wimpy, found other people picking on me, and I found the only way to success was to be muscular, incredibly strong, and super aggressive.
Right.
One of you asked me, how is it that I feel so comfortable speaking out?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to that 10-year-old boy who didn't
Yeah.
say anything, who was shocked. It still comes out. What I've learned as a 59-year-old is that that's not always effective. It might be right. But I remember getting suspended and coming home and still getting in trouble. And I remember saying to my mom and dad, I'll do it all over again. That kid didn't stop. And it's the only way to get him to listen. At least I thought at the time it was the only way to get him to listen.
Right.
Is this helping
Yeah.
form stories
Yeah,
for you?
yeah. You're reminding me of. Do you know Jordan Peterson? Have you heard the
Sure.
name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of very good, quotes and speeches and stuff. But one of the ones in particular is, his saying of the world really needs men who have swords, know how to use them, but instead choose to sheath them instead.
Love that quote. And Kathy's going to watch this and ask me to sheath my sword, not in the way I'm thinking right now, which is inappropriately. What I've had to learn, and it took me to be probably 55 years old, is when more of that clicked,
Yeah.
was that I can be more powerful. I can still speak up, but I'll be more powerful than getting in someone's face and telling them how bad they are, right? Being that pejorative person is just not effective. Yeah, profound stuff. It's interesting when you talk about the synapses and everything else like that.
Right.
I went to a seminar where some Navy SEAL spoke. And in their conversation, they were talking about how the myelin sheath covers the neural fibers, and the more you go down that path, the more they engage that fiber, so you can keep sending signals, which is why we can have what we might call bad habits. And he said we can never erase bad habits. We can only try to form new pathways and hope more neural pathways get exaggerated. And that sheath is still there, but it gets worn down. I bring that up because my instinct now from being 10 is I'm going to outbattle anybody, which in some ways helps with business because I'll be prepared more than anybody, right?
Yeah, seriously.
So that's still there. The hard part was learning that that's not always effective, but it's amazing how that came out that by the way, this wasn't, she kept asking questions and man, we kept cycling back. And admittedly, guys, she's saying it. And if you can imagine, like having headphones on was her tapping me. Imagine closing your eyes and having headphones on and me taking them off and just whipping them down on the ground, saying, I just don't believe in this historical shit. I'm responsible for myself.
Right.
And she kept saying, put the headphones back on. We're going to go back. So I love the question. I love the start.
What was the moment, if you can remember, where you started to get the feeling of there's a better way of going about this rather than going, physical or using the musculature you had put on? Was that like a long period of time where you slowly learned it, or there's some turning points where you're like, that didn't go as I thought it would, maybe I should do something different?
I was telling your dad this morning at breakfast that it wasn't until I was 55 years old because admittedly, I had a lot of success doing things that pretty aggressive way. And so let me caveat that term success. It was my version of it.
Right.
Good salary, taking care of my house, taking on new tasks, whatever I was doing, I was getting results. I might have left a wake in my way that a boat going through a bunch of people on a shoreline. didn't do it well, but I was getting to my destination,
Yeah.
right? Financially, I had success because sometimes that borderline arrogance, confidence would get me a gig. For example, before I met you, I had an opportunity to do work with Motorola. So I was on my own doing my own consulting. Motorola came to me because they heard I had some experience in X, Y, and Z. And so I went through a series of meetings. I was RFPing against other people in the Boston group, if you've heard of them.
Sure. Boston Consulting.
Well,
Yeah.
yep. I was up
Right.
against them,
Wow.
and they're in a hallway in their suits, and I'm post.com era. So I'm pretty much in my Tevas and a t-shirt because I thought that was the thing to do at the time. I
Right.
thought there was a brand. And we get to this final meeting and they said, we're going to have both teams present
Oh, wow.
right at the same time. And they're sitting right there. And it was me and one assistant I had with me, this woman named Nina. And they said, we're going to have you both present at the same time. And 10-year-old boy jumped up. I didn't say, hey, is there a moment we could talk offline and talk about this a little bit? I'd like to understand this a little bit better, ask questions, right?
Yep.
I went, fuck that. And they went, excuse me. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not giving these assholes my idea. I said, they charge more. I said, their suits cost more than my fees, and you're going to buy into their shit because they went to Notre Dame or Princeton. I made it to the final two. You know what my proposals are. Share it with them. Don't give a shit. I'm out. That was sincere.
Right.
Now, I got the gig. Okay. It was a high paying gig. I got it. And I look back on it now and go, so many different ways you could have done it. Right?
Just a couple.
Yeah, but
It was effective, though.
But my therapist and I joke because the biggest thing she had to get me over was, you might be right, but are you effective? And so as a gift to her when she retired, I got I might have been wrong, but I was damn effective, right? It wasn't until I was 55, post-divorce, I wanted to salvage the relationship with my kids because if anyone listening thinks that this was just a career thing, this carried over at home. Okay. So I had a very, very tough marriage, the details of which I will only talk about offline.
Right.
But it was tough. I played a role in that. I was very aggressive in wanting my career to take off. Verbatim said to my wife at one point, when she said, you're not home enough, the first year before I met you, I traveled 280 days. And when she said, I need you home more often, my response was, this is the part I said I would own. My response was, you see all this shit you have around you? This doesn't happen if I'm home, sitting at home, making dinner. So we need to understand our roles. Again, as I say it, I feel right, but damn, that's not a way to show up for your partner. So because of that, I wasn't always a good dad. And because of that, my career might have taken off. So I hit some end marks, but I wasn't building a network of friends. People knew that they could call me on because they needed a bulldog for a meeting. So I would go in, clean up house,
right,
make everybody do everything. They'd listen to me because half of them were terrified. To this day, people have said when I walk into meetings, they think that I'm going to beat the shit out of somebody. So I'm now divorced.
And I did that. I'm going to break the...
Go ahead.
I brought you into a meeting with Kirk Fallbacker.
Oh, you used me for that purpose.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And he wanted to know if we had any data expertise. And I brought you in to do that. Yeah. And you were under contract. And I remember you talking about data lakes or something. I don't even remember what it was. It was enough that it went beyond his level of understanding. So I knew he's like, oh, I guess he must know what he's talking about because he knows more than me.
Yeah. And there's parts of that are great because that's the fearlessness. That's also the very little kid who felt anything is possible. Right.
Yeah. But go on.
No, it's,
but you're talking about your kids.
It wrecked my relationship with my kids. So now I'm 50, I'm living by myself in this tiny apartment, went from this wonderful, beautiful house in a great neighborhood. I'm in this tiny little house. This isn't a woe is me, by the way. I don't want that to be felt at all, just the circumstance.
Right.
And my first objective when I met with a therapist was not to fix me, it was to fix myself with the kids. I went, if I can't get this right, then life is useless. Because ironically, if I start to cry now, it might happen. I saw how my dad worked with me and he didn't have the skills or tools. And I vowed when I was younger, all I want to do, most people have objectives when they grow up. I want to be a doctor or lawyer, not most, some.
Right.
I just want to be a dad. So what's the fucking irony of all I wanted to be was a dad, and I end up being a piece of shit because I followed the patterns because I had success. And so I said to her, I don't care what it takes. I need those 3 kids to think that I walk on water. And I know it sounds really weird to say it that way, and see my my problems, my challenges.
Yeah.
So I spent thousands of dollars and 10 months just making sure that I fix that. If you can indulge me again for one quick story.
Yeah.
My youngest son, I was brutal to. He ended up having an incredible baseball career, and I hope he listens to this because I feel terrible retelling it. Um, but I was really mean to him because my marriage was so struggling that anytime he did something bad on the baseball field, it reminded me of all the shit my wife told me that I sucked at. My wife constantly told me, you suck, you're not making enough money, you're not doing the right things. I'm going, God damn it. You're a stay-at-home mom. We have a 3,000, 4,000 square foot house. We've been to Hawaii twice with the kids. I don't fucking do enough. Like, God damn, I can't. So anytime Sam would strike out, fucking strike out again. You're not playing baseball. Because I had no outlet. All right,
Wow.
go to, it was real. And I'm going to own all of it. So I go through therapy, and Linda helps me understand all this stuff. And fast forward to Sam.
Linda's a therapist.
Linda's a therapist.
Okay.
I highly recommend her. Unfortunately, she's retired. Beautiful woman, just soul of an angel, and saved me. And if she were here, she'd say I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But that's her.
Right.
Sam is a junior in high school. Loves baseball. Early part of the season, he goes to turn a double play. He was a shortstop. As he moves the ball from his mid hand to his throwing hand, he wrecks his nail. The ball just hits weird. His nail comes off, blood all over the place. He throws his 4-hopper to the first baseman. And had he been younger, I would have yelled out, Sam, what the fuck? And all of a sudden I go, oh, something must have happened. See, I don't know if you could feel that. It was a shift.
Yeah.
I stopped looking at what he was bad at and went, there's no way he would do that. So here's where the story actually gets better. He's now miserable. His mom's not at the game. I got to take him to, what do you call those clinics?
Right. Urgent care.
Urgent care. Thank you. So I get in the car to urgent care, and I instantly became empathetic. And I went, okay, he's injured. He's going to miss a shit ton of games now. He's probably going to be miserable. He's got school tomorrow, and he's got a history of his dad saying he sucks. Let him be angry. So he's in the car, and he goes, you're not going to say anything, are you? And I go, Sam, it just sucks. I don't know what to tell you. He goes, why don't you tell me I threw the ball like shit? I'm like, well, you had to throw it like shit because your freaking nail came off. He goes, oh, you care about my nail. And the whole time I'm telling you inside, I want to go, kid, shut the fuck up. I'm going through therapy. And I went, Sam, I'm really sorry. I feel terrible. I don't know what I can do here. And I know this is probably the last person you want to be with is your dad. You probably want to be with your mom right now. If you want me, I can call her. He goes, oh, so you're passing the buck. Guys, I had no escape. Side story. I just built this new house. I'm remodeling it. A bedroom's done. I order a shit ton of pictures from Costco, and they're waiting. Hospital is here, past Costco on the way to take him to his mom's house where he's living. So my brain goes, all right, after we're done with this, I'll take him, ask him to just wait in the car because I'm going to pick up my pictures and go to Costco. This story detail is really important to me because I hope anyone that listens to this hears the change that is possible in everybody. So we're at the hospital. He starts to calm down. He realizes he can't play for a while. We get in the car and I ask him, hey, would it be a big deal if we stopped at Costco so that I could pick up these pictures and I'll take you to your mom's? Eruption. It's always about you. It's always ever been about you. And I go, hey, I get it. No big deal. You're right. Bad ask. I want you guys to feel something. Instantly inside, it flowed away from me. It was the right thing to do. That was 54 years old. Prior to that, so you understand, I would have been like, you ungrateful piece of shit. I spent 4 hours at the hospital, right? It was all about me.
Right.
And he goes, nothing, you're not going to be angry. Just, it's okay. And I went, Sam, it's okay. He goes, you're not angry at all. And I went, I really am not. He goes, I don't believe a word you're saying. Take me to mom's. You're an asshole. I still didn't feel anything other than, God, I really messed this kid up.
Right.
It took him till I was telling your dad at breakfast this past year. So it took him 10 years of being divorced and 5 years of really seeing, or 6 years of seeing a different dad for him to see me now. But does this answer your questions about these milestones of what it took?
Right. Yeah.
So I want you to understand, we have a neighbor that just did something terrible to our house when Kathy and I got back from a short trip that we were at. Just loaded a ton of shit up against our garage, garbage, a whole bunch of other crap. And my instinct was, that's it. Fuck him. I'm going to his house. I'm pouring this on top of his car that's in the alley. I'm going to literally go, that's the lesson. So that person's still inside, but I had to pace around the house
Yeah.
a few times
Okay.
to then come to a place of, all right, I got to find a way to talk to him because maybe he doesn't understand how important this is to me and all that kind of stuff. So to answer your question long-winded, it took 55 years and a more concentrated 10 solid months of therapy before I felt I can go out into the wild.
Right.
David, does that answer did you get a feel for that? It took me that long before I go, when I say go out in the wild, meaning Linda would literally say, I want you to try this with your kids right now.
Sure.
I want you to go on a date and try this. And I'd come back and report back all the things I said and did.
Right.
It was a massive process, but yeah, 55 years.
Wow. What gave you that? I mean, a lot of people when they're going through things like that will rely on like scripture, or they'll have a really strong sense of, they'll have a life or death moment, basically, like, okay, I don't want to go back there again. What was it that what was it that sense you talked about of the number one thing I wanted to be as a kid was a good dad? Was that the driving factor that helped you through 15 years of repairing a relationship? I mean, that's a long time. Like, what helped you when 10-year-old self inside started lashing out saying, I want to get out of this body and just like say what I want to say, and new Jack is like, no, you can stay inside. I'm in control now. Now I'm going to talk. How did you combat that for 15 years?
You mean, let me see if I can answer your question, but I'm going to throw it back to you. How did I find the determination to make that change? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think maybe I'll try rephrasing it. Um, 100 people can go through therapy, right? And there's just a fraction that actually are successful because there's some other driving force that you finally, these are those moments that I was talking about. And I think that's the whole reason for our podcast, is to talk about the hard knocks, or the things that only life can teach you. You can learn about these all day long. You can sit in therapy all day long, but until you actually experience it, that those are the learning that you can then pass on to other people that are listening. And there's always um, there's the onion inside the onion inside the onion, and at some point you get to the core.
I've always been a happy, positive kid. I was always that way. I was a
Yeah.
talkative, fun-loving, everything's possible kid.
Right.
My driving force was a simple mantra that I still use to this day. Choose your hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to keep my mouth shut, but I get my way with Sam.
Yeah.
Or it's hard to or it's hard to open my mouth and hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Choose your hard. What's the thing that's going to be better? I was 35 pounds heavier than I am today. I was 230 something. And it was because I was playing in a band and eating like shit. And then I got pneumonia and was hospitalized. Was it easy to lose all that weight and get in shape? No. Was it easy to get fat and out of shape? No. Because everything's choose your hard. I think I'm lucky. I'm gonna say that truthfully. I'd like to say I have some role in my life. I also feel I'm lucky because, and this I think I inherited genetically from my dad. When he was a cigarette smoker, when it came out that it causes cancer, threw it away. He stopped cold turkey.
Wow.
Cold turkey. Well, at least that was my perception. My mom may say, not really.
Okay.
Right?
That's still incredible.
But I never smoked again. My dad got hepatitis B, was told he shouldn't drink anymore, stopped having alcohol on the spot. I have that. There is something innate in me. Plus, when I went to therapy, to kind of tie back to that, I never viewed therapy as a stigma.
Right.
I viewed it no different than wearing a wristband that says I have diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
I told people I was going to therapy. I said, you're going to have to be patient with me. You're going to be experiencing things as I say them, um, that may sound awkward.
Right.
I lean into it because I don't know if I want my kids to love me. What other choice do I have? I don't. You're gonna. I'm gonna be really bad now. This is the old me coming out. Before I met you, I started a podcast, not podcast, a blog when blogs were just a thing. This is bad. I'm gonna admit it. This is really bad. But this is old Jack. You're fat because you want to be, and
Ooh.
it was right. But I knew as a marketer, it's salacious as, or sensationalistic as hell,
Right.
and it'll have an effect.
Yeah.
Right? And I knew I would capture people, and it got a lot of negative comments. It's really rude. You shouldn't approach it that way. People are sensitive about their weight. And I would always respond with, you got yourself here. You can get yourself out. I don't, I'm going to say it another story for you. Go watch Duke University women's basketball coach. I'll send you that link also. She was talking to her um, teammates, and she was trying to get them to understand what competition is. And she said, I can make you work as a coach. I can tell you to get on the line and run sprints. I can tell you to shoot free throws, but I can't line you up against somebody else and tell you to beat that other person. I can't make you compete. I don't know if that 10-year-old boy who got that shit shoved in his face had, maybe I had that competitive thing in me all along. It just
Right.
manifested itself because of that.
Yeah.
I've always just been a competitor, and I've always believed things are possible. And so shifts like that are not, don't get me wrong, they're not hard, but I truly live in this place of I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I really, yes, you answered the question wonderfully. I really like I think summarizing everything you said into choose your hard. That's really, really good. That's really good. That's very profound. Yeah,
Right.
the sense of I mean, going back to the example John gave at the beginning of these neural pathways, right? You don't get to, I mean, there are 3 paths in front of you. There are only so many people in the world that get to invent a brand new path, right? And even if they do, most fail anyways. So you get to choose. And there's only a certain amount of options. You get to choose which one, what is your hard. I like that because it recognizes that there's no easy. You're just choosing which hard path you want to go down.
Mm-hmm. Where it has gotten in the way for me, David, is because I feel I can control most things. Please don't conflate what I'm saying with I've got this under control,
Oh, yeah.
because it's not. It's just life is a lot smoother.
Sure.
I have a few family members that have struggled with drug addiction. And I truly sit down with them, and not in a pejorative way. I sit across from them and go, I don't get it. Right. And they say they see that whatever drug it is, and they can't stop from wanting it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I look at it and go, yeah, right. They have one of those, yeah, you can.
Sure. Yeah.
And so what I had to learn through therapy was that my own kids are going to view my change as through their own addiction, so to speak, right? Does that make sense? And I
Sure.
had to get more empathetic to how they're going to be receptive to me. I just have to keep showing up a certain way.
Right.
I'm fascinated by the brain topic because I really do live this way. You might find this funny, and yet you won't as you're getting to know me more. I actually wrote a bunch of people prior to this and said, I'm going on a podcast. If you were to list all the Jackisms, annoying and not, that I've ever said to you, share them with me, because I want to see if those things pop up.
Oh, that's
love it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've got a list of them.
Oh,
Let's
wow.
do that.
But
Great.
there's
Yeah.
24. So, but anyway, one of the things I used to, because I wanted, rather than say, here's how I view things, I want to see how do people view what I've shared with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Annoying and not annoying.
I love it.
And one of the things that I would always, I learned was that what you think is what you feel, and what you feel is what you project, and what you project is what you receive. And vis-a-vis, I was walking down the street one day. I was feeling really confident. This woman stops me. I wish these were exaggerative stories. It was in Naperville
Uh-huh.
on what's that main drag there? You know it better than me.
Ogden Avenue
No, not
or
downtown Naperville, whatever.
Maine or
Is it
Washington?
Washington.
Or,
That's
okay.
it.
Yeah.
I'm walking down Washington towards Starbucks, and I'm not really making eye contact. I'm just walking like this, and this woman goes, "Can I stop you for a second?" She goes, "You have an energy about you," and I almost went, "Cool. I'm glad you could feel it because I do too."
Yeah.
And so I sense in myself when I'm walking into meetings and I'm going, "I don't want to be here," and I've walked out of meetings where I went, "I'm not going to be effective here. I'm not going to be good or strong or
Yeah.
powerful."
We
Or
definitely know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
well, tell me
energy.
I want to hear. I don't want to hear just me. Do you feel that? Do you experience that?
The number one most important thing in any group is energy. If there's no energy, nothing's going to happen. And there are a lot of, not everyone is as attuned to it. I think it sounds like you've probably definitely seen that and witnessed that yourself. Like some people like really like you can feel it tangibly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you can, I mean, you start to notice there's just certain people that just, it's contagious. And we have a friend here, like it is contagious. Like you can't not leave without more energy. It's impossible. Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
might get to meet him, later today or something.
Yeah.
So it's a very real thing. I mean, you go into, some of the best teams, like he's told me tons of stories of, places he's worked and other places I've walked into, right? You can feel the difference. Like when there's like a really cool team or a Bible study or something, and like there is an energy. You
Yep.
can't really describe it.
Yep.
I mean, it's not even emotional or anything. Like you can just feel it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you should just take a moment and talk about how you came to the point of working with people that you really feel that energy with.
Oh, about how I don't do work with anyone who doesn't have that energy at all. Oh yeah, it's a waste of time. Yeah, I don't. I aspire to get to the point in my own life where I never have to work with people who don't give me that energy back. I think you're alluding to my time in Vegas,
Yes.
probably. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I'd love to hear this.
yeah. So, I mean, people listening, you've heard this one before, so we'll tell it again.
Okay.
But so I'm out in Vegas, and I've got. I mean, I always have like 5 projects going on. I always do. That my brain loves
You need to fill the
doing
voids.
things.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even voids. I just
You like it.
love creating things.
Yeah.
Right? It's fun. And so I'm doing all this, and there's a lot of stress going on, like financial stuff and work and everything. And I'm out here to honestly just have a really great time because my buddy Dennis Yu and Anthony Hilb had essentially flown me out. Dennis put me in a love you, Dennis. Put me in a hotel for 2 nights, paid for the whole thing.
Wow.
And he was taking us to all the cool stuff like magic shows and spas and everything. So like we have a fun time, and I'm like stressed out, right? So the second morning starts, and so we have like one more after this. And I didn't have a really good breakfast, and I'm a little tired. We go to this spa, and we, go to a spa and everything. And then Dennis, pops up and is like, "Okay, great. We are now going to go do a surprise workout session." I was like, okay. I mean, he's sporadic, right? Like he knows everyone.
Yeah.
So he just calls in a personal trainer from someplace in the United States, like really well known, like an influence guy. He's like, okay, cool. We're going to go do a whole workout. We do a whole workout. We're having fun. And all of a sudden I don't feel so good. And I basically lose consciousness for 15 minutes.
What was it?
I'm like walking over. I'm like, hey, I don't know if I feel that great. And I sit down, and it was the scariest thing ever because I lost sight for 15 minutes.
What happened?
I was conscious. Sometimes I go in and out according to the one woman who was there along with me. But what was really cool was, so Dennis is on my left side, and he's like, he will be fine. I have had this literally happen to myself before. He's the voice of reason amongst the other woman who's like the head of the spa and my buddy Anthony, who are like freaking out, like we might need to take him to the hospital. So he's like, no, like we're good. He just needs 15 minutes. I have done this before.
Okay.
And then Anthony is here on his knees praying constantly. And he is shoving
Literally?
Literally.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
And he is shoving apple juice down my throat to bring my blood sugar levels back up because they
Okay.
were like at 0.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are you
that's why it
diabetic?
happened. No.
Okay.
It was just, not eating, not
moment,
sleeping, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
right?
Vegas, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. And so then I come back. I'm like, I can see again. And that was when advice I had gotten, I mean, also from, my friends of really the only purpose in life is to spend your time with really cool people.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you get to take into the
Yeah.
kingdom with you. You only get to take people.
Yeah.
Souls are the currency of heaven.
Yeah.
That's it. Not money, not success, nothing else.
That's right.
And I can say this, I mean, I don't think that way all the time. It's very hard. But,
Yeah.
similar to you, like, it's still rough.
Yeah.
But that's
Always will be.
yeah. So being with people that have that energy,
Yeah.
that is the only thing ever worth spending your time with. And people who sap it from you, I would probably go so far as to say you have to cut it off as fast as possible, or help them become not sappers and be givers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Your dad and I were talking earlier. I want to be your generation when I grow up. Not all the time. Sometimes I want to smack your generation around, but that's just being older.
No, you should.
Yeah.
You should.
Your dad and I were talking at breakfast this morning. We didn't have these conversations with not only our parents, but even adults as
Right.
say mentors. Maybe we had business mentors who would guide you through a sales process or a meeting or how a particular technology can be applied or critical thinking,
Sure.
right?
And therapist was a very bad word.
Very bad
That
word.
meant you were gonna.
Yeah, something was wrong with you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There's
really-
still a lot of that stigma left.
Yeah. We just never had we never had conversations about how I feel about certain circumstances. That's why I applaud you for being at your stage of life and your age for saying, I'm not going to include myself with those groups. Your dad and I would argue, fought through it. We even thought we might be able to change people.
Right.
All right. We know so well, I bet I can fix that guy.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys go, got options, I'm out. And I don't mean that in a caustic way. I'm just trying to be a little more black and white here than shades of gray purely. I
Yeah.
just find it fascinating that you came to that. I wouldn't have thought this way.
No.
Right?
Well, I mean, I've been pretty lucky. I have maybe like 4 dads. Like this is the OG, okay?
Right.
This is the OG. All right, he's the most important one. But I've got like a bunch of other people that are basically my dad. Right? I've got like Perry Marshall's definitely one. Dennis would probably say he's probably that
Yeah.
way, right? I've got like Brant Dolan's another
Right.
one.
May I ask you,
Yeah.
were some of those your dad's influences, hand-offs to you, or some of you?
I mean, I got
created by your own?
introduced to almost all of them through him. Yeah. I mean, I've also just love older people too. It's so much fun.
The reason I bring it up is that my youngest, the one.
This is the only podcast you are going to be watching, by the way, where I'm interviewed and he's interviewed, and we have to stop for a moment to be like, "Hold on,
Whose show is this?
This is not the. Hold on, wait. Let me get the name of it. This is not the Jack and Kathy shit show."
I would say it is a subtle brilliance that I've learned throughout life on how to do this. Is to take the mirror off and turn
Right.
it.
Oh, well, you're talking to. This is 3
I know,
people.
3 people do that very
who
well.
do that. Yeah.
Right. There is a Monty Python that's just like this.
Right.
I don't know if you
Yes,
know.
there
Right.
is.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Oh,
Are you talking about
Right.
the argument?
The argument theory. Yeah. When you
Oh,
come
that
in
was
for an
the argument
argument
clinic. Yeah.
That's
Right.
fantastic. Oh, I just got too loud in front of the mic. I apologize.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We can put a little like blinking text down here that's
Okay.
like volume.
Right? Exactly. I say it because my youngest just recently graduated from college. And so he's been asking my advice for career stuff. And I said, I'm going to put you in touch with a series of people over the course of a few weeks. I need you to be patient.
Yeah.
But there are people that have achieved some level of success in life. That doesn't necessarily mean they're CEOs, et cetera,
Sure.
and so on. But people who I admire, who are you and I talked about this, incredibly self-aware, recognize their role in when things didn't go well, are proud of the things they did well, but I want you to hear from them because they'll be great mentors. And you can't always hear from me. And I can't tell you how many people my son has now called back or called me about and said, wow, Matt is great. By the way, you're on the list. Just haven't gotten to you yet.
Right.
So he's on 5. I've got 10 people.
That's awesome.
I signed up.
I look forward to it.
Got 10 people on a list for him. And I said, you're going to keep referring to these people.
Right.
What's been interesting is each one of those mentors, so to speak, as he's going through these interview processes, he's leaning back on all this other stuff. And then he's calling me saying, Matt said this, or Hugh said that.
Mhm.
How does this play out? And I'm saying back to him, call him and ask him.
Right.
And I'm glad that I want you to embrace this. we really didn't have this growing up, right? You
Yeah.
had to find somebody that took you under their wing because for some reason you guys had something in common or they liked you, right? Do you agree with this?
Yeah, later in life, though, I would have to say my dad was really good at doing what
Later in
we just
life.
talked about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my father did connect me with a number of folks that he was familiar with,
Yeah.
and I got to be very close friends with them. I can remember
Oh,
having
great.
dinners with some of his
Yeah.
business friends, if you
Yeah.
will, and they really shaped my life,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's crazy,
Yeah,
isn't it?
nothing
Yeah.
like the relationship David has with some of my friends. That's, it's different.
When you said later in life, you mean 40s, 50s?
Oh, no,
age?
I'm sorry.
Maybe
So when I
30s?
was in my
Okay.
20s.
Oh, your dad stepped
Yeah.
into that role? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not experience that till I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more when he started to shift
Yeah.
over and leading me or introducing me that way.
Right.
I just, you find it valuable, I take it. Like, it seems like this
Yeah.
is huge for you.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have enough.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have someone I can talk to about literally. Why do you want to figure out stuff for yourself the first time?
Do you feel though that that's ubiquitous with a lot of your friends? Like it's universal, or are you more unique that way? My feeling is you seem more unique, but maybe I'm not hanging out with you guys enough to know.
That's a really tough question to ask because it would have to do with the people you hang out with.
Yeah, it's your circle.
Yeah, it's the circle.
Right.
And like my very best, I mean, my absolute best friend, I mean, is very much the same way.
Right.
Maybe I'm a little bit more,
Okay.
because I have to be.
Yeah.
But I I don't know. It's really hard to generalize. I definitely know there's a lot of people out there that don't understand the value of wanting to just ask someone for help
Mm-hmm.
or wanting to, because there definitely is a lot of stigmas against all like all the different answer generations, like, oh, it's the boomers, like, all that stuff happens all the time.
Yep.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And it does take a lot of, I mentioned, for a lot of people, once you get over it, it's not a big problem, but initially getting over that initial very big cultural divide, because I'd argue that in the last like even 5-10 years, the world has changed way more than it did in 50.
Hmm.
And it's continuing to just do this,
Yeah.
right? It's changing literally like now every 3 months,
Yeah.
which means someone who is now 70 or 80 and has a lot of wisdom to share, it requires a lot more patience or charisma on the other end, patience on the other end to listen and translate what that means. There's a really good quote from C.S. Lewis in Screw Tape Letters, where Screw Tape basically just
It's a
says,
nice flex, by the way. It's pretty impressive.
What
Keep
flex?
going. You're flexing about you've actually read C.S. Lewis and
Oh, he's my favorite author. Oh yeah.
Total flex.
No, he's wonderful, but I mean, he writes how I want to
I'm
write.
very impressed, is what I'm getting at.
Sure.
The only author I know is who was the
Jack Hojnar?
Mike Royko from the
Oh,
Tribune
right,
days.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but he has a really good quote in there. It is a Christian focused book. I think the advice is all the same, even if you're not, which is Screw Tape is, one of the devils in the armies, and he's writing to, his,
His boss, basically.
No. Right. Screw Tape writes to Wormwood, and Wormwood is basically his underling, his, what would it be? Nephew. It's his nephew,
Okay,
right? He's in training, right?
Yeah.
And so he's just lauding after all the things that the enemy has done a really good job of. And he said one of the biggest victories we ever had was it was teaching the current generation not to trust the wisdom of the past generation just because so much time has gone by. He said there are so many mysteries and wisdom and questions people have about the world that have been answered by people like Boethius 1,500 years ago. Perfectly, best way, immaculately written. It takes a little bit more time to read it, but it's I think that's probably my long-winded answer to your question. Now, getting to it, there's just a lot of people that will dismiss something just because someone's older. Like, yeah, you don't get it. But in essence, humans are humans, and they will always be humans. So as long as you can make that little shift of, okay, culture is a little bit different, so when you say this, you're applying it to that. It's the same thing. Why rediscover the same thing again? Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges I've had recently, and I'm curious to know if you feel the same way, is that ageism obsolete feeling. I don't know if you feel that way at all in what you do.
That age is an obsolete
No, the
feeling?
ageism or you're being obsolete. Do you feel that at all?
No,
No.
no. But
Okay.
I work at being around young people like David. I work really hard at it, and I love learning. And
This guy talks to AI every single day, by the way. He has a conversation with Claude, not even ChatGPT, so the better version. He talks with Claude
That's what I
literally
do.
every single day.
Yeah.
I have been teaching my kids how to use it, and my daughter was describing to me a project thing that she was putting together, and I went, "This is really duplicitous," but if she's watching, she didn't know I did this. I actually took the recorder on, so I was recording the conversation. I threw it into the AI bot, and I said, "I just sent you something," and it was her entire program laid out in a schedule spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you know what I'm asking more, and I don't think I asked it correctly.
Okay.
Is it emotionally? Do you feel emotionally like you're on the back nine? I talk about that often
I
at
will
home.
say that if I am among a lot of retired men who are not doing any work anymore,
Mhm.
there is a limit to the amount of time I can spend with them because I feel like they have decided that there's nothing else to do.
You feel your blade's getting dulled.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to be with people that are out in the battle, that are really mixing it up, they're doing something. I mean, my friends are going to listen to this and they're going to say, "Oh, he must be talking about me." Well, maybe I am, right? Because I just feel like there's so much more to be explored
Yeah.
than doing nothing,
Yeah.
right? Literally.
Well, I mean,
nothing.
those very people. I mean, some of them. I think I know maybe a couple of those names you're thinking of, but I bet they have an immense amount of. They could at least mentor someone.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
But so for me, I just enjoy spending time with young kids. Always have. I love the learning, the excitement of coming upon something for the first time. Uh, like when I with my grandkids and they discover something. Like
Yeah.
with my granddaughter, so every Saturday when I call them, we have a little bit of imagination together.
Oh, how
And
cool is
so,
that?
yeah, so I'll say something like, "Okay, Mackenzie, there's this backpack, and you open it, and then she has to complete the story, and she gets to talk for about maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then she knows to stop, and then I have to pick up the story, right?"
I love that.
Wow,
And
that's like my favorite game.
exactly,
Is that
right,
what you did when he was a kid then too? Did you do that
No,
kind of stuff?
that's D&D.
right.
That's
Oh, is
improv.
it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wait, that's part of the game.
Yeah.
Is part of the
That's
game's okay?
very
Never mind. We're
formalized.
gonna do a whole nother cast on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So anyway, I just enjoy that sense of the playfulness and the imagination of, like, I gave her a unicorn for this little plastic horse unicorn, right, for Valentine's, and I handed it to her and I said, "You have to name the name," and of course I'm thinking, that's going to take me. There's all these names I could consider, and she goes, "Oh, we're going to call her Flower." And I said, "Oh, Flower? Why
Perfect. Yeah,
Flower?"
yeah.
Well, because she has a flower on her. And so now we start a whole story about, let's talk about Flower, right? And so I don't want to get old, especially I want to keep my brain sharp,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So long-winded answer, but I do know that those of my family or friends that have uh, not spent enough time learning or exploring and being curious and whatever it is, they do start to lose their edge. And it's kind of sad because I can hear them almost like the wheels are grinding, and it's really hard for them. Um, but, again, just to kind of go off, but, my mom is almost 98 years old, and every day she has the discipline to sit and go through all the names of the kids of our families and their birth dates, right? Because that's how she's keeping her mind sharp.
Yeah.
And
God,
so I was talking with her yesterday, and she said, "Okay, now here's what's coming up, and you're going to be doing this, and this is what's going on with my son John, and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Yeah, you got it all right,
Wow.
So, but she's doing that every day to keep her brain sharp. So, I just think it's healthy to do all of that stuff.
I love it. You said something really interesting, and I want to pull up my notes for a second. Again, in preparation for this, I sent your questions to a bunch of people.
Pull up in front of the camera really quick.
All this stuff. Like
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
Is that not amazing?
just a few.
If anyone watching here wants an incredibly fun individual just to talk with on a podcast, I mean, this guy's showing that he's probably a good quality guest.
Well,
Exactly. It's good we're on question 1, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it's your, I want to,
Well, that's why I said we might not even go through all. This is just conversation starters.
well, it's interesting you just said that, because I think this ties into what I'm about to say.
Okay.
We can talk business till we're blue in the face. I want you
Right.
guys to know that the podcast that I've watched now twice is the one where you guys talk about the modern era of websites.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the more recent ones. It was
Yeah.
like 2 ago, maybe?
Mm.
Whatever it was.
It was
Yeah.
like
I-
episode 6 or
or
something.
whatever it
Yeah,
was.
a lot
I
of time.
watched it
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I watched it again and I watched it
Yeah.
again, because admittedly, I was I saw the headline and went, all right, I've got some meetings coming up.
Right.
I want to make sure I'm on top of all this stuff too. So it was a very,
My opinion has since changed even more.
oh, for Christ's sake. I used it and it worked. So you better tell me what the new thing is. But that's to your point about staying fresh, right?
Right,
And so
exactly.
I'm going, all right, this is very tactical. It's not relational. It's very transactional, but I need to get this out from your stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, in preparation for this meeting, I wrote some mentors and said, I'm going to be asked to be on this podcast. They have 2 million viewers, seen
Wow.
worldwide. Well, this is yours.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm presuming I'm just helping you out. You can subscribe. What's the subscribe thing?
Hard Knock. Well, I mean, it's Hard Knocks Labs everywhere.
Perfect. So I said, these are the things they're going to be asking me.
Yeah.
I want to know where you feel they may be missing some things about me,
Right.
where I should interject some stuff. And this friend of mine, Peg, who I love, goes, oh my God, great. By the way, I showed her my notes too. And
Okay.
she said one of those, of course you did.
Right.
And then she said this, which ties to the curiosity thing and getting
Yeah.
older. She says, I need you to make sure that they understand that you are more than any of your accomplishments, that you have spent a lifetime wanting to learn how to give, to learn, and you are driven by human curiosity and the human experience. And she said, if that doesn't come across, I'll be really upset with you.
Okay.
And so the fact that you just said, and the reason I asked the question is because we're at that age. I've got a few friends that were very successful and retired.
We're including me, like I am too. Like
Not at all. I am totally excluding you at this
Right.
point.
Right.
Go play with your friends.
all right, I'll go over.
So it's, at least in my opinion, it can be challenging to be sitting here and watching a few people who've really cashed in well,
Right.
who now are going and just hanging out in Costa Rica. And while Kathy and I could certainly slow our lives down,
Right.
I had a very, very good friend, really close friend, who's skiing here right now, who said, why can't you and Kathy just retire in 2 years? We'll get a house in Colorado together. I went, what are we going to do?
Right.
Ski in the morning, mountain bike in the afternoon. I said, and then what?
And then what?
Right? And he goes, well, we'll chill out. Maybe we'll play ping pong, pickleball. And I
Right.
went, after all these years of knowing me, I don't think you get it. That sounds like death to me.
Right.
So that's why I was curious how you felt about all these things. So it's
Yeah.
good to know that
Yeah.
curiosity is a big driver for you.
Yeah. Well, the human connection, though, to me,
That too.
yeah, I'm really somebody that enjoys generosity and spending time with other people. Like
Yeah.
I was telling you on the way over here,
Yeah.
the couple that I
That
met
was
on
an
an
amazing
airplane,
story.
right?
Can you-
I love that kind of stuff.
I don't think you, can you tell that story? I know it's about me, but it's a good story.
I'll
Let me
sure.
here. I'll give some here. I'll talk about me to give context, because David's given a look like this fucking guy.
No, hey, it's fine. I mean, people are here. What makes this podcast different from everyone else is that this isn't a podcast just to talk about opinions.
Right.
This is a podcast where we talk about people's stories, their life events, and where they to uncover more than any podcast does why they are the way that they are.
I love it.
So you can take control if you want. I think that shows your character, that you
You-
can't sit still.
That's a big part of it. Your dad and I share a lot of commonalities, but there's one thing we don't share, which is going to probably surprise you and maybe you a little bit. I am not good with people. Okay, meaning not that I'm mean or bad. If I walk into a room of networking,
Yeah.
I instantly get anxious. Now, I have spoken with those cute little clear headsets to 1,000 people at a time in different
Sure.
conferences. My band is played at big events. I am not afraid of being in front of people.
Yeah.
When asked to go into a room and, hey, can you make some connections? I truly go, can I just sit in the back room? I can't do this. I say that because I'm fascinated by people who at least seemingly are more confident or comfortable. And your dad told this amazing story that I'll add even more context to. In October,
He's really, hamming you up right now.
I know. I'm like,
but
boy,
it's
this story
impressive
better.
to me. If this is about Hard Knocks and anyone that's listening, I feel they should hear these stories. And if you glean something from it,
Right.
meaning here's a guy that's confident walking into a room to meet people, and here's one that's not, and here's how they intersect, that's learning.
Right.
So
I like that. All right, you've earned your place.
thank you. So indulge me. I say it often. In October, I got to a point where I said, I'm going to explore career options. I've done everything I can at my current job. I've exhausted every possible extent. And if they see this and watch this, doesn't bother me if they go, wait a minute, you're looking, because I'm in full on exploration mode and I am not done yet. You probably feel very similarly, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So explore means I'm going to pursue a ton of things, starting my own thing again, meeting with other people.
Right.
So what does that mean? I got to jump into something really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to build my own neural networks. I've got to plant the seed and those roots have to take hold. Right. So in October, I said to Kathy, we were at an event, I met someone and I went, starting today. And by the way, quick advice for anyone watching this, do not say, I'm going to do something Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. If you say I'm going to go on a weight loss journey, I'm using it because it's easy. Fucking start right now. Just start. So we're at this event. I lean over to Kathy and I went, universe put me here. I'm networking today.
Right.
And she goes, what? And I went, I'm starting today. I said, all right. I went like this. I put my head up and I went, all right, 10 to 14 months. And she goes, what are you doing? And I went, 10 to 14 months. I'm going to have a huge network from 10 to 14 months right now. Patience, persistence, consistency. It's all I got to keep telling myself. Be patient, be persistent,
That's
be
awesome.
consistent. I'm saying this
Yeah.
like out loud to her. And
It's a good
she's like,
mantra.
I can't hear the conference.
Yeah.
Right? We're at this thing. And I went, I'm going to talk to everybody about this. Okay.
Right.
Or in my head. And so that moment, I met this guy and started talking to him. And he was a speaker and I figured I don't know how to do this, but I'm just going to be myself. Him and I started talking. That was October. Yesterday, I went to the Rotary Club. He invited me to it because we've now become close. And I met the mayor of Milwaukee and the former mayor of Milwaukee. And the mayor of Milwaukee said to me, I'd love to hear more about your ideas, because I said to the mayor, I hear about how Wisconsin is becoming this big tech hub. What do you need from me? What tech is missing? Because I know a lot of people and maybe they could develop some stuff. And I even said, I got some cool ideas from people I know out in Colorado. He wants me to meet with him. The reason I tell you that is I have now set up 2 or 3 meetings a week. Right. I keep getting invited to things. And every single time, John, especially John, I want you to know that when you told me the story you're about to tell in the car, I started getting anxiety as you told it.
Okay.
Because I couldn't be in a line at an airport, and I travel a lot, and strike up a conversation. People have talked to me, and I put my earbuds in, even if I'm not listening to anything.
Sure.
And do one of those, what's that? Right?
Yeah.
And so what I've learned is that in order for me to be successful, if I want to hit these goals, choose your hard. Yeah. I cannot meet anybody, or I can step into something that's uncomfortable, and it's now uncovered all these things. So my question to you then is, has it always been easy for you to do that? Do you find that comfortable? And if you could tell everyone the story, because it's such a contrast between me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Why I love it?
Yeah, I think
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the setup is that I was talking about how through some life journeys, some of those moments, whether they were cast upon you or you jumped into something, this was one of those moments that I found that I was rediscovering myself. And something that I rediscovered is my desire to be with other people and to meet people and to be out there. And that's something that I think I had put away for 30 years, right? And so the story is I was at the Denver airport flying to Milwaukee. I was going to spend Christmas with my sister. And I think some of this has to do with energy too, because there was this couple near me that I could kind of sense there was some energy there. I don't exactly know other than I turned to them and, I'm thinking it's beautiful Denver. I'm looking at these people and this is Brad and Katie. Hi. And I turned to them and I said, so in the middle of the winter, what brings you from beautiful Denver to Milwaukee? And yeah, exactly.
No,
right.
can I raise my hand here?
Yeah.
See, right there. I'm what made you do that? That's what I want to uncover, because even if I heard a cool conversation or something,
Right.
what made you want to do that? I'm really what
I,
is
I
it?
just have a desire to meet people
Okay.
and to know them.
Okay.
You know, like I was telling you, this coder um, that was sitting next to me, um, and she was just uh, coding. She as soon as the plane took off and we got to 10,000, she popped up her laptop and she starts coding. And I'm looking over and I'm like, I don't remember exactly what that is, but I'm a programmer by my background.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, coder, right? And she turns to me and she says something, and I said, you know, what language are you programming in? So that started a whole conversation. And, you know, I've gotten to know her. David's now met her, and we've had lunch, and we'll probably meet her father here soon. But that's not the story.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, that's
yeah.
just another example, you know.
This is why I told him as soon as we can, I'm just going to have him fly first class from now on.
Exactly.
Believe it or not, that's how I grew my business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we'll get that to another.
Yeah. So anyway, I see this couple, and they said, "Well, actually, we're flying to Milwaukee to see our daughter perform in theater." And I said, "Oh, that's great. I love theater. It's another thing that I have started to like. Wow, why did I put that aside for so many years? Because it speaks to me so much." And so she says, "Yeah, we're gonna." And I said, "Oh, is it at the Milwaukee Theater or whatever?" She goes, "No, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's at the Fireside Theater, just north of Janesville." Blah blah blah. And I said, "Well, in I'm going to be staying at in Williams Bay with my sister." And I said, "You know, I'd like to learn a little bit more." And well, as it turns out, she's going to be in White Christmas, and I'm like, "Oh my God, White Christmas! I'd love to see that." And so we start passing messages to one another. They were in a different aisle while we were traveling, and then we get off the plane and we keep talking. And our plane was delayed. It got to be late. Brad went to go to the rental car. We weren't sure the rental car place is going to be open, and they had a long drive ahead of them. And so, you know, just sort of the chit chat that you have. And so I said, okay, well, one, I'm going to go see your daughter. And well, how can are there tickets available? So she said, well, call the box office first thing tomorrow morning, see. So I ended up doing that, and I got 3 tickets. That was my Christmas present to my brother-in-law and my sister that year. And so as we're talking, just one thing I didn't mention is that I said, you know, it's a really long drive to where you're at right now, and it is snowing. I said, you know, if you guys just want to camp out at my sister's place, there's plenty of room. And so they said, well, that might not be necessary. I said, believe me, if you get to know them, you'll find out that they would love to have you stay with them. So anyway, they got their rental car. They went on their way. They were able to make their hotel, but I know they could see the sincerity of my offer. So we communicated, we traded messages, and so we ended up having drinks with them before the theater, and then after the theater, we got to meet their daughter. You know, so I got to meet Courtney. So that was fun. Since then, I flew back last summer, and I saw Courtney in a couple other performances at the same theater.
And we
Took
saw
some
her
other
just
friends,
like a couple months ago.
and we saw her here in Denver. Meanwhile, David's gotten to meet Katie and Brad, and now their daughter, who is in this play. And so to me, it was, I just enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy meeting them, knowing more about them, their personal stories. You know, well, why is Courtney in dance? Well, this is something or performance. This is something that Katie did when she was younger. I mean, there's a whole thing that you get to learn about people and the richness of someone else's life, and I just enjoy it.
It's fascinating to me
Yeah,
because it's truly a 180 from anything that I would even think is possible. And so again, what's so interesting when you told that story
yeah.
is just for me how I had to keep reminding myself that the possibilities for my life will resemble what you experience if I lean into something that might be a little uncomfortable.
And be willing to recognize that that has to be reciprocated.
Of
So
course, because they could have shut you off like I
they
would.
could have, you know, Katie could have said, "There's
Creep.
this creepy guy standing next to me,"
Of course.
right?
But the the bigger message is you don't know though until you step into it.
No,
And if you step into it, it doesn't work, okay, move on.
right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I spent a lifetime going, it's not going to work.
sure.
I'm gonna get shut down. What's the point? You know,
Yeah.
all those kinds of self-deflating thought processes or
Yeah,
thoughts.
I'll give one more encouraging story since you like my stories. we don't get to do this at all. So
I do not want him at the end of this sitting with you saying, derail the whole thing.
yeah.
What? There's no derailing
Okay,
you can
good.
do. It's yeah.
Very sensitive
So
to David's
I'm
feelings.
at my
You're making me sound like I'm a bad guy. I'm just here to
Oh,
give the
if I
best
do, I
quality
mean,
content.
I really want to. This is your guys'
Right.
baby, so I don't want to.
Yeah. So I was I started seeing somebody about skincare, and I was at their office talking with one of the main practitioners, and I had been there, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 times, and she and I talking, and I said, "Hey, some of my friends are talking about going to a spa," and I said, "I've never been to a spa in my life," and I said, "Do you know anything about spas?" And I understand I don't have women in my life to ask that question, right? So I don't know who to ask, and our friends in New York had told us that they had just gone to some spa, and I'm like, "Oh wow, that sounds really exciting," right? And I'm thinking there has to be somewhere around here, Aspen,
Gotta be.
someplace,
Of
right?
course.
And so she says, "Well, there's some, that are up in Granby or, Winter Park and that area up there." And I said, "Oh, okay. Is there anyone in particular?" She goes, "No, not really, but you could probably find that." And I said, "Well, some friends and I think we're thinking about going skiing, and I haven't done that in a while." And she just turns to me, and this is somebody I don't know terribly all that well, right? And she says, "Well, you can just stay at our place." And I said, "Serious?" And she goes, "Oh yeah. Ryan and I bought, and in the meantime, I've gotten to know her husband. And by the way, we already knew we went on LinkedIn, and Ryan and I know several people, so it's kind of a small world, right?" And so she says, "Yeah, you can stay in our place. It's on Airbnb. Here, you just find the dates that are open. You can stay, and I don't know what it is per night, but it's super expensive, and no charge. She goes, just pick up the cleaning fee." I'm like, "Holy cow, are you kidding?"
Wow.
And so we're going next week.
Wow.
So then I talked with our friend Jim, and I said, "Hey, Jim," I said, "we're going to do this, but I really kind of feel like I need to offer something back." And I said, "This is me." I said, I want us," and he's a gourmet. I'm not.
Oh.
I wash dishes.
Okay.
And so
That's good. Everyone needs a sous chef.
yeah.
Right.
And so I said, "Here's what I want to do. If you're okay with this," I said, "next time I see Adria, I want to offer that we come in and cook a meal for her family."
Wow.
And so I did that. And I said, "Okay, Adria," I said, "I'll take you up on your offer. However, I have a condition." I said, "The condition is that Jim and I are going to come in and we're going to cook for your family. It could be one of two things. I said, we will come in and you'll have to park your 3 children someplace out with grandma and grandpa. We'll cook a romantic meal. We'll serve it to you, and then we'll take off and you guys can enjoy your evening." I said, "Or we will cook for the whole family. We'll involve the kids in the whole meal
Oh.
and really have fun with this." And so he says, so she said, "I'll go for that last one. I love that
How
idea."
cool is that?
So Jim got all the ingredients for making spaghetti, and we had little hands making, tiny, meatballs, and it was great. David made chocolate chip cookies for the family, and we went there and we had a ball. And it was so much fun thinking outside the box, doing something fun for someone else that they really, really enjoyed.
And look what you had from it, just
Right.
because of a conversation about a spa.
It was just fun.
Pick your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's really, it's truly amazing. God.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a friend now,
Yeah.
and her husband's super goofy, and I know he's going to watch this. And so
That's
we
just
had a lot of
amazing.
fun, and it was great. So
So
gotten to know the
crazy.
kids, got pictures.
Yeah.
We made little aprons for them with their names on it.
No way. All from a spa conversation. Look at the memory you created.
Right. It's fun.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. But I think that I would encourage anybody that those are latent sometimes, for me. And the more that I find like, wow, that's me. That's who I am. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I want to do more of it.
You're making me think of something. I've got a very close relative who used to be a partner at Accenture.
Okay.
And long since retired, very, very successful, wonderful human being. And when I was going through some career and even some of the marriage challenges, probably 15 years ago, we sat down and he had me take all these extensive tests, almost kind of like what you would take with Clifton Strength Finders and all those other kinds of things.
Right.
But it was stuff that He's a very confident man. And if Mario, if you watch this, I'm talking bad about you right now.
Yeah.
Super confident. He gave me this huge test, and I went, "Oh, you just stole half this shit from Myers Briggs or whatever." And he kept saying, "It's my stuff." But anyway, where I'm going with this
Yeah.
is it was to narrow down the 3 things that are most important to you, but you had to exclude like family and kids and all that kind of stuff,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so it was more designed for how you like what are important things to live your life, and then that can transcend into career opportunities. And so I'll give you my answers, and I'm curious to know what your top 3 would be.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing some trends here, and again, I'm going to tie this to Hard Knocks. I've lived by this stuff ever since he told me, pay attention to these things. Mine are these 3 things I need to have in life for me all the time. And they are in reverse order. So it's money. And to be sure, money isn't for possession or to buy things. It's to be able to create experience and to generate and to give and all that kind of stuff. I don't, you and I talked about it. I don't need a ton of stuff.
Right.
But the other 2 are really huge. And if we were to weight it, those 2 are the bigger ones. I need to be in a life that's creative and that's building. And those 2 are distinct. Okay. So creativity means how can I solve a problem? And building, I'd rather be able to come in and say, okay, I've got nothing here. How do I put this together? And those kind of go hand in hand.
That's cool.
And that has, at that point, it drove me. I went, oh, so that's why my career looked this way. And
Right.
that's why my relationships look, that's why I like playing the guitar, or that's why I like building houses.
Yeah.
Right. I'm curious, what would you say are your 3 that you could say are your core, and it could be just right now too, but what would you say are your core drivers or?
Wow, that's a big question. I don't know if I could succinctly give what I know all 3 are, but I do know one of them is I have to be allowed to be curious or I will die.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if I'm not allowed to think outside the box or do weird things or put A and Z together when no one thought you could put A and Z together, I'd rather do a lot of very different things. Yeah, if I don't have that, then I'm not me. Yeah, that's I think pretty much my 3 things would probably, I mean, I'd like to put money in there because it allows you to do things.
Right.
But
it feels odd, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel? Do you
Yeah.
feel it feels narrow to say money?
No, it's not that it
Okay.
feels narrow. It's just that I feel like I'd end up putting my 3 things as the 3 things that probably define me the most, because if I lose any of those, then I'm no longer me. So what's the
Got it.
purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, so money and curiosity. What was that?
Curiosity would be one. I don't know what the
The other
other
2. Okay.
I'm not sure what the other 3 might be.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on how you're asking the question. I mean, the easiest one for me to answer would be I have to have my relationship with God or else I'm just dead.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
that sense of security, someone loving you always, unconditionally. You know, you mess up, you're already forgiven. You don't have to work for it.
Yeah.
It's a very, it's comforting, and it also drives you
Okay.
to the other ends of the earth.
Yeah.
Because you have someone you're like has given you literally everything, and has, to some people have given some, to some people have given many, and expects that you are going to do the absolute, the parable with the talents, right? You need to be doing your absolute best every single day, because you want to, when you die, to be told, good job, good and faithful servant. That's the only thing that's worth it.
Yeah.
So those would be 2. I have to think about the 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What comes to mind for you?
Well, David and I share the same driver in our faith,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I'm defined.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned a lot about that, and so the things that I value and the things that I think make me different, are not different, but the things that are huge to me is I use the acronym GEM. So I think about generosity, encouragement, and mercy. Those are the 3 things that I have, like on the mercy side, there's, as I was telling you over breakfast, there's really no one that I can think of that if they've done me wrong or something like that, I'm over it. I just extend mercy because I've been given mercy. Encouragement, I love to encourage other people to do what they need to do. It's the joy that I have encouraging my children. Honestly, I love that. Encouraging people like you, right? And to do things. And the generosity is just, to me, time and money and being able to give all of that. It's why we're doing this. The Hard Knocks podcast. There is no, like one of our guests said, what is your revenue model, right?
Yeah, we have none.
We have none.
Oh, are you serious? Ask that question?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
of
they were just
course.
curious.
They wanted
Yeah.
to know,
Oh.
how many subscribers do you have? Is it worth my time being on your show?
Yeah, and when we said, I mean, we do this because we know it should exist. I mean, the entire conversation changed. They were like, okay, great, let's do it.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
To
There's
be
something people
sure-
love, the passion.
Yeah, to be sure, when people ask us why we started our podcast, like what we intend to get out of it, how many listeners, what do we need to make it successful?
Yeah.
I said, well, first of all, that's
Yeah.
my phone or is one of yours? I'm gonna ignore it. Can you hear that? Maybe you can.
That's
get
all
rid
good.
of
You
it.
can talk over it.
Okay, so
Maybe one of the listeners will think it's their phone. and-
oh, yeah, it'd be great. So you know what we did on one of our podcasts?
Alexa,
That's what we
answer the
did.
phone.
We did that on one of our podcasts. We kept saying it over and over again, and I was laughing, going, "I hope I'm just messing with everybody right now."
Oh yeah.
Where were we going with this? I just forgot what I was going to ask you now. Thanks for the Alexa thing. Totally
Oh, it's all
lost
good.
my train
I
of
think
thought.
my third one might
Oh, you got
might be stories.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
you want to be able to tell stories or experience them or both.
I mean, I love talking. I love writing, and the thing that if I don't have stories, then life is also extremely miserable.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
creativity, it's curiosity.
Yeah.
Right. It's it's a beautiful thing. I mean, these
Yeah.
are stories.
Right.
I'm just
Yeah.
helping you tell yours.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I remember now. We were talking about podcasts and what the end game is.
Right.
And I truly, as I've gotten older, came to this place of I am not going to be attached to any outcomes. When someone says things like, well, like for example, when you and I were talking, I was asking about the cameras, not because of a debits and credits perspective, how much those cameras cost you is more.
Yeah.
Do you like that connection? Does that camera work well?
Right.
When we started the podcast, Kathy just said, we talk so much about our relationship at this stage in life, we should record it. Well, I was in a band for years, so I had all this gear and went, well, all right, I
Wow.
had an SM58.
Yeah,
which is a-
diesel, right?
yeah, so I had the gear, so I went
Yeah,
plug it in,
yeah.
and the next day she comes to my apartment and goes, "What the hell is this?" I went, "Our podcast." And when
Yep.
people have asked us, "What's the end game?" I'll tell you what we say, and you can all have your own story. Ours is a real time memoir, and so
Right.
my true end game is that my grandchildren and great grandchildren can go, "That's what great grandpa was like one day."
Yeah.
And if from that, if a byproduct is someone that's in a relationship, challenge, whatever, feels hopeless, maybe we represent some sort of aspiration.
Right.
I feel if you start attaching, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I feel the
Uh-huh.
business, maybe I'm wrong about what you guys should be doing. Am I wrong in that? You guys have other businesses where you make money,
you
right?
lose the. I mean, as soon as you try to drive revenue out of anything you do, inevitably lose some of the soul.
Right.
You do, right? Because you're not doing it because this is what it ought to be. Now you're doing it. This is what it has to be in order to meet this goal.
Right.
It's a. I probably like it too. Wisdom I learned from it. Luke Wroblewski, and he was talking about websites user experience at the time. But it was like, hey, great. Let's imagine you go to a website, okay? And the metric that the marketing or whatever team is judged on is how many email signups do I get? Okay, right? Sounds pretty good. And so he's like, so here's the problem. If that's my metric, now the only purpose of the website, I'm going to put pop-ups everywhere. I'm going
I
to
was
guard
just
stuff
going
to
to say the
having.
same thing. It's all that's going to be. There's sign up now to learn more about this website.
Right.
It
right.
goes everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere,
Right.
and you can very easily when you go to a website, you listen to a podcast. I mean, you do anything, you can very quickly tell what people are doing it for. What that model is because you optimize for it.
Yep.
And sometimes the unintended consequence of having a bad piece of accountability. Accountability is good, but you have to make sure it's the right one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel you guys would agree with me on this, that Kathy and I, at least in our venture, started out with the conversation. Let's just have a dialogue.
Sure.
And then it went to, we really like doing this. And then it went to, holy cow, people are paying attention to it. And then we got people writing us
Wow.
saying loved it again, right? And I actually felt responsible. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah. We're not at that point yet.
Yeah, well,
No one's written us yet, so we don't feel
yeah,
responsible.
we get we've had some criticism that came up too, which the 10-year-old boy came back as someone wrote
Yeah.
something really incendiary, and I stared at it and I went, this piece of shit does not know that I work in this internet world. I will find their fucking house. Like because
I can help you with that.
they were so bad that I went, I know in a couple of keystrokes, I'm gonna be able to write them a letter to their office and then my brain went, okay, Jack, whoa,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Where I'm going with this is once we started to see that there was some sort of interesting momentum,
Right.
was when I said, I'm going to reach out to a couple people that I feel are aligned with us because we actually talk about their stuff and use their things and do their stuff and see if there's at the very least some sort of affiliate or a combined program.
Sure.
So my question for you guys then is, I love what you're doing.
Okay.
I've listened to as many podcasts as I could, and I have to admit I kept coming back to the tactics.
Okay.
Mostly because I had a meeting coming up, so
Uh-huh.
it was very
Right,
it
that's
was
fine.
truly transactional.
We're working on bringing those back.
Right.
Yeah.
It was actually really fascinating to go down that path, but I loved the interpersonal stories too. I felt intimidated by the woman who created the tagline. She did some, it was like,
Oh, Alexandra
Yeah.
Watkins.
oh God, I listened to that one. I'm not
Yeah.
going on your show now. I don't have anything.
we
to-
just
awesome.
had dinner with her last week.
No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were in
Oh,
San
she'd
Diego.
love you.
Oh, well, it's great, but
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a hat feather.
That's our
thing.
metric. We want, that's at least that's my personal metric for this right now. How many cool people do I get to have a relationship with?
So my question is, there's going to come a, if you continue to do this, if you know marketing as well as anybody, it's a momentum game, right?
Yeah.
And out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing the scarcity game, but then you better have something really valuable, right? You know what I mean by that?
Sure. Right.
Okay. So if you guys even thought about that pivot point, that intersection at all, have you started processing what this could be? Or you're enjoying where it's going right now, and you're kind of letting it flow.
I mean, we've
Just
created
curious.
a pretty good media team and a media engine.
Okay.
And so for the most part, I mean, where you just start thinking about, okay, well, what can I do the absolute most with it? And so you start like, okay, well, got a great team, have the whole setup. Well, someone like me should start making a ton of videos because I love the camera. It's great. I love this. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's
You
great.
are so bashful.
Oh, I mean, hey,
He's really good at it.
Yeah, he's
Right.
very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
He's
It's
very good at a lot
wonderful.
of things. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I mean, we should be making more videos on this type of, different type of stuff and gain different audiences because, if you have a following of people, you can do basically anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where, our head's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest piece of learning, the biggest challenge I have this year that kind of answers your question is I have learned how important it is to only care and only ever think about the infinitesimal present. Never think about the future.
Mm.
You only think about the future as it pertains for your infinitesimal present.
Hmm.
Now, there's a religious reason for that, which is the infinitesimal present is the moment where you get to touch eternity. That's a whole different discussion.
Okay.
That's a whole different discussion.
That's over lunch.
Yeah, that's
Right,
sure. I
right.
can't wait
Yeah,
for
or
that
dinner.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the
I'm gonna get blown away by both of your intellects.
the other reason is that's where you live. You
Mhm.
don't get to live in the future. You don't get to live in the
Mhm.
past. The future changes all the time, and if you're looking at the future, then you get extremely depressed, sad,
Mhm.
anxious, everything negative. If you stay
Mhm.
right here,
Yep.
right now,
You
you
made me
see
think of something. Keep going. Yep.
well, you see amazing things.
Correct.
The amount of times that you get to see just beautiful things you would have missed if you were looking that way
That's
instead
right.
of this way. Right.
Well-
Someone like him meeting people on the plane. If he's just thinking about, oh my gosh,
I've
I need
got
to make
this to do,
revenue
and-
next
right,
week,
exactly,
all that
yep.
kind of stuff, well, you don't get that adventure anymore.
Correct. I wrote this down. You can see it. So it's what I've been saying this whole time. And it's
Yep.
funny because I say it all the time. I wrote that down and keep it in my wallet all the time. It ties to exactly what you're talking about. Patience, persistence, and consistency. Just trust it. Because to your point,
Mhm.
you can only do what you do during the day. And if you keep doing good work, you hope
Right.
something's going to become where you get to make, to your dad's point, way back to the beginning, that synapse is going to fire where you're going to get to a pivot point.
That's not to say you shouldn't have a plan, but that's to be like where your head and
Thank
your
you.
energy should be right there.
Do you agree that it's more not getting attached to the outcome per se? Meaning, I'm going to go on this date and God, I hope I can marry this woman. Because I feel, I know I gave an exaggerative example.
No,
but,
it's a great example. I think it comes down to what is your perspective right now.
Hmm.
Like
Mm.
thinking about the future and the past is not a bad thing. I think one of the biggest struggles the human race has is that no one has, like 99% of people don't have the ability to do introspection, right? Which is to like think about why did I do that? Why did I feel that way, right? So you can improve yourself, right? That's thinking of the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's very helpful.
Yep.
That's what you went through. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to learn how to do that.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah. And so thinking of the future, that's what I was like, thinking of the future for the sake of the present is fine. That's okay. But thinking of the future to the point of like, man, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do that, like it's just going to crumble. You don't live there. You don't get to decide anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can decide when I take a step forward, which is about all I can do right now, right? I can decide I'm going to, do this, right? Whatever this is, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea I was going to do that 30 minutes ago, but I did.
Correct.
So it's a matter of, yeah, it's good to have direction, but you don't want to get so caught up in having your perfect direction and everything laid out and worrying about all that stuff that all of a sudden you're like, well, if you looked at yourself right now, you're like, oh, I'm doing this. Oh, that's not efficient. I should be doing this, a nice straight line instead. If I'm looking too far out, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Two questions for you then. One is, how do you feel about the term mind the gap? That's one of the things I used to say all the time, meaning sometimes we're so caught up in here and there that we need to press pause and go, holy shit, look at the gap. Look of where I came from. Right. So I'm curious your points of view on that. That's the first one. And then we're going to go way deep into the pool. The three of us are largely entrepreneurs. I've spent most of my career working at startups. I had one stint at a big company, which I thought I would.
Yeah. Same with me.
Right. Clearly we could talk about this forever. So we share something very in common, right? That I think is important for this discussion. And that is stupidity. We're dumb. We are more comfortable with the unknown. I feel that when I talk to people who work at big companies, case in point, was networking with someone yesterday about the growth of tech in Wisconsin, in particular in Milwaukee, because more funds are coming there. Just know that get more attention going there because it's basically more inexpensive to live than other places. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And so they're doing what they can to attract talent. And so I was talking to this guy and he said, the challenge we have is that we have huge corporations here. There's Northwestern Mutual, there's Baird. Epic is a really big tech company, but that's in Madison.
Yep.
And so the challenge they're having.
Bradley. Yeah.
Pardon?
Alan Bradley.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the challenge is that there's really talented people there.
Yeah.
But they can't see, truly, you said these words, a future by going to a startup. Because that becomes so uncertain. The three of us, I think, look at that and go, oh, sign me up. So here's my question relative to how do you, because I think, intrinsically feel this way. I'm a big fan of manifestation, which is I know it's going to work out. I'm not sure of the direction. Vis-a-vis this example. The day I met Kathy, I didn't think I was going to marry her, never visualize myself living in Wisconsin married when I first met her. But I did know that I wanted to go home, and the universe said to me, go out tonight. Just go out and see what happens. And so I leaned in and went, for some reason, this woman wants to go on a date. It coincides with the time that I'm really close. I'm going to leave. And everything unfolded. I believed in my soul I was going to find someone that matched what I needed, just to know what they looked like.
Right.
So my question then, so you got both questions now?
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap between not getting too caught up on what the future looks like and yet manifesting it? Does that make sense? It's really deep into the pool shit. But I think it applies to startups and leaving a big company to go to a small one. There's business applications there too. No?
I'll let you take that. You can take both of them.
I think your question is probably answered by what we discussed a little bit. I mean, I'm looking at the camera about an hour and a half ago, which was energy.
Interesting.
I mean, if you are trying to manifest something, you have a lot of energy for it. You have drive. You want it to happen for a reason. That's good. That's being having energy requires you to be in the present.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You have to. And so if you are, spending too much time looking in the future, where's your energy today?
I love that.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
I mean, there are too many companies that, we've worked with where they're like, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful future. Like we're going to be $100 or $200 million company. Like, whoa, right? But there's no energy right now.
You know, how in the world are you going to get there?
Yeah, there's a reason why NVIDIA CEO Jensen is like, I don't make future plans.
Yeah.
I do what needs to be done right now. He has, I mean, believe me, there's no way NVIDIA does not have an immense vision for like, I see a future where this could happen.
Of course. Sure.
But that is just energy. Or like 2 days ago, it was 2 days ago, Elon's XAI unleashed Grok 3.
Yes.
Right? Phenomenal model. Has problems, but it's still phenomenal. It's early on. And he basically talked about the beginning saying, yeah, I mean, our goal is like, we want to answer all the questions of like the human race. Like, that's what we want to do. I want to be able to answer all these questions. I want to know the answers. And so like, I foresee, and so if I'm speaking for him, I'm pretty sure he'd say, yeah, the reason we want to do all this is because I see a future where anyone could answer any question they have whatsoever at all. No one's held back by anything whatsoever at all. What does that future look like? I don't know, but we have to do this today, right now, to get there. And so we're going to, you know, work like hell to get there. So that's the best way I can answer your question.
That's great. That's really cool.
How would you answer it? We have to turn it back.
Yeah, you're doing a good job with that. I love a book by Simon Sinek called Starts With Why. I don't know if you read it.
Of course.
I love the book. I love his follow-up book to it
His
as
Golden
well.
Circle.
Huh?
The Golden Circle.
Yeah, I think it's summed up in a page, but the book was a good read, right?
Yeah.
Like anything, I truly believe in a why. And so for me, if I have a why, if I know that I want my life to look that way, I focus less on how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And let me give you a quick example that I shared with my daughter, and I truly want to hear your input too on this, but I recognize I'm the guest. So, okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, look, if it goes too long, I'll cut it.
Beautiful. It's going to be a 30-second. There's going to be little snippets. It's going to be a 30-minute interview because you guys are talking all the time. I love this dialogue. I really, truly believe all of the things we're talking about apply to how you live your life, and that applies to how you earn a living, how you interact with other people. It took me a long time to learn this shit.
Yeah.
I survived without a lot of this insight. My daughter was contemplating, she went to the University of Oregon, loved it. Her now husband and her were contemplating going back there. She graduated, moved to Chicago, hated it. It's a different lifestyle. They're outdoors people, campers, hikers, etc. And she was struggling living here. And so we sat down and I went, do me a favor. I said, why do you want to go back? Tell me why you want to go back to Oregon. And so she described a couple of things. She goes, Dad, you don't get it. I got one of these, you don't get it, which I get. She goes, how am I going to make it work? You can't just pick up and go. And I went, all right, well, do me a favor. I said, I truly am going to beg you to do this exercise for me. And I don't know if you share this experience with your kids, but you have at least one kid that wants to listen to you. The rest of them go, oh, here Dad goes again. Alex is my one kid that goes, feed me.
Okay.
So I said, on a sheet of paper, on your train into the city today, I want you to write down all the bad things that can happen if you go to Oregon. But I really want it to be bad. Like Sam cheats on you, you get an STD, the house catches on fire.
Oh my gosh.
I said, I want you to just imagine Oregon sinks into the ocean.
Right.
Everything. She goes, I went, write it down. Just do me that favor.
Yeah.
And then send me a picture when you get to work. So sends the picture. And then I got the, well, now what? I went, just enjoy your day. And she goes, what are you going to do with it? And I pulled some bullshit. Probably I'm going to run it into my AI machine or some crap I said, because I knew she'd fall for it because she thinks I'm a tech head. I said, now call me on the drive home and I want you to write down all the good things that can happen. But I really mean all the good things. You win the lottery, you do this other kind of stuff.
Right.
But right on the other side of the paper, you know where this is going clearly. She kind of got it. We sat down and she goes, you're telling me those are all the possibilities. And I said, you don't need to know how it's going to happen. You just need to know that it can. And when you go out there, if you believe that you're there for a reason and you know your reason why you're going there, a job will show up, an apartment will show up, you'll make great friends. Fast forward, her efficient was a woman that she met because she went back and took a job. She became her best friend. Mm-hmm. They lived there for 4 years. Their life blossomed. Right. And so to answer your question for me is if you know that why, I still plan as a person clearly, right? Plan for this meeting.
Same.
I didn't. Yeah. No idea how it was going to go.
Yeah.
But I want to have at least a knowledge of this stuff.
Right.
And so for me, it's the why. Like, what is my reason? And I'll figure out the rest of it and I'll get there. But I still have the vision of I'm going to be this. Like in October, I said, I'm going to have a network of people. Not sure how that's going to happen, but I know I want to have a network of people, so I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
What's yours? Curiously, you didn't want to answer, did you? Or you do?
No, I'm going to
Thank
put it off to because I want to get back to you.
Oh, God damn it! I did such a good job for 2 hours.
I'll leave you with one quote that probably answers your question, and then he can go to grab whatever question he wants,
Okay, go.
and we'll do like a nice cut right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So our good friend Marty O'Donnell, who came on the podcast, said
Which
this.
one was he?
The composer for Halo.
Oh yeah. See again.
So
Yeah.
what he said at the very end when asked what advice would you want to leave for all your grandkids, and this will be slightly paraphrased, even though I've read it many times. And he said, "Do not be afraid. Failure is your friend.
For sure.
You cannot stop doing what you're doing because of a fear of failure. Because if you do, you will only end up regretting. Regretting is something to be fearful of.
That's right.
And the worst thing that can possibly ever happen tends to not be that bad, and it never does.
That's right. That's
and
right.
It generally just stops you from doing anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's a great reminder to go back and watch that video if you haven't seen it. All right. So now I'm going to turn to my hardball question.
Okay. Oh, what's your hardball? God damn, I thought those were all hard. What's the hardball question?
Hardball question was this one. Okay.
Oh,
All right.
yeah. So
you told us that we could talk about all sorts of stuff. And I think that if there's any learning, this is a huge learning for everybody. So take me back to the day that you decided that this was going to be it, right? And tell me what happened.
it's so funny. I want to share you my notes. I have pages and pages of notes on every question, and then one line
Okay.
on that one.
All right.
It is admittedly that when I saw the question, I actually contemplated telling you I don't want to answer it.
Okay.
However, I thought about it on the plane. I really did. I thought a lot
Yeah.
about it.
Okay.
And mental illness runs on my mom's side of the family. Some people are not with us anymore because of it. Depression,
Yeah.
all that. I made the choice. We talked a little bit about it, so I'll try to. My brain is going to a place, John, where you and I already talked about the story, so I feel like I'm repeating it, but I realize that not everyone's heard it.
Right.
So
yeah, we talked about it on our call a couple of weeks ago. Right. Right.
So I'm trying to be succinct and profound at the same time, and comfortable. So,
well, you talked about lots of preparation that you had made. You made a decision that this was going to be it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, first off, how did you, what was on your checklist that got you to that point? Right. Like, okay.
I was 49, 50 years old.
Okay.
I had a beautiful house that I didn't have anymore. I had 3 kids that they'll tell me that they love me, but I felt I didn't have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Most of my friends sided with my ex. I don't feel I understand it now, but I didn't have my family support. And let me describe that dialectic. They were concerned that the divorce would cause, like my parents, for example, were worried that it would cause them not to see their grandchildren anymore. Other family members were worried about, now where do I fit in with all this? Because we kind of like your ex for some things, right?
Sure.
And I can speak to this with other people I know have gone through divorce.
Right.
When you're in that situation, you just want advocates. You're looking for people to say, you're okay, you're making the right decision.
Right.
And I found myself having very few. And I had no friends that were divorced, male or female. I had an uncle that was divorced, but it was massively contentious, right? The fuck you, I'm taking your money. And he was somewhat helpful, but not the best piece of advice, because I got a lot of fuck her and fuck other women advice from him, which went, that's not going to land.
No.
So I can't describe it any other way than I was absolutely isolated. And now I'm living in Naperville, 15 miles from where I raised my family. And speaking about the future, it was zero. There was none. There was literally no future. I could see none of it. I went from, again, balder guy, um, again, decent living, decent amount of money, but my brain went to, we can laugh a little bit. All right, I don't have a 17-inch piece of junk that's going to please every woman. I don't drive a fancy car. I don't have $20 billion in the bank. Well, I'm not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And on top of it, Christmas is rolling around, and I don't have the kids aren't coming over to the house, and I'm seeing pictures online. This is Christmas time, so I'm seeing. I look back at it now with some humor. There were pictures online, Instagram stuff with everyone at my house, right? At that point, my emotion was I fucking built that house. Like I did every remodel, and now everyone's in the living room with a big Christmas tree, and
you're not there.
It didn't seem like they even gave a shit. And when I asked the kids to come by, and I don't want my kids to watch this and feel responsible. I get it. It was, yeah, sure, we'll be there, but I could feel that they were there and couldn't wait to get out.
Yeah.
Right. And all these parties are taking place back home. Side story that's kind of funny is um, I had a Mini Cooper convertible. This thing rocked. It was this fancy 2-seat fast car.
Wow.
And I realized I bought all these gifts for my nieces and nephews and kids because Christmas Eve is when I saw the pictures. That's when we used to have it. Christmas Day, I had to bring all these gifts to my nieces and nephews and family, and I realized the car couldn't hold it because I bought my niece like this big chair and someone else a big teddy bear, and so I ended up putting it all into a massive sheet. I tried to live life in a way saying, all right, you got to be happy. Somehow turn this around. So I went out and got a Santa Claus suit because I realized I couldn't fit it when I was starting to wrap everything. I looked at the car out the window with one of those. How is this going to fit?
Yeah.
So I put it into a sheet, tied it with a ribbon, and put a Santa Claus suit on and drove with the top down, with the bag just sitting there next to me. And so people were honking at me. So I tried to have fun.
Yeah.
But then I got home and was the kids stayed for a little bit of time, but then I came home and drove by myself. And I remember just bawling in my living room, going, "You made this choice. Like, how could you do this? And how could this be my life?" And a lot of woe is me shit. And on paper, I had everything, right? I had my health, had a good job, right? But I felt the end was there. Like I didn't feel I had a friend to save my life. And I don't want anyone listening to feel bad about it. I think they just were living their lives, right?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's Christmas time. They're with their families. I can't expect them to be going, "Where's Jack?"
Right.
And one of my best friends, John Horton, was like an angel to me, him and his wife, Susan, because they truly took me in and constantly said, "Come over." And I felt awkward being at their house all the time. So as we near New Year's, I'm not getting invited to one New Year's celebration. And it is true. The height of the holidays just exacerbates everything. When you think about it, who gives a fuck, right? There's tons of people that don't celebrate any of that.
Was a sense of it used to be like you used to have it and now it's gone kind of a feeling.
Yeah, it just everything it changed and it would never be the same. And then I'm very comfortable with owning my role in the divorce, and now I felt responsible for upending everyone's life. And then I also felt like, God, everyone's taken out of me, but just enjoying what they have. And so we're nearing Christmas Eve, and or New Year's Eve rather. Sorry, we're nearing New Year's Eve, and I took a walk along the river walk. So if you've been in Naperville, you know there's a river walk, and where I was located was at the west end of it. And I took this long walk, and there was a bridge there. And I had a bunch of rope. I hope you're okay with the details. I'm very comfortable now telling you. There was a bunch of rope. I went out late, like the 28th, 29th, and I measured it. I used to do rock climbing.
Okay.
So I went, this shit can handle 200 pounds because I've gone to, what's the Western Illinois? There's rock climbing out there. I'm drawing a blank on it now. It's my age. Starved Rock.
Yeah.
So I used to do regular climbing at Starved Rock with people where we did,
Yeah. Rappelling. Yeah.
rappelling and all that.
Yeah.
So I knew the rope could handle my weight, doubled it up, looked online how to build a noose, and went, all right, I got to snap it and do it fast. And so I measured it, dropped it, let it drop down. No one was around. It's late at night. And I'm thinking if anyone does show up, I'm going to be fucked. But I was going to do it early in the morning, mapped everything out, sat home and typed up letters for everybody because I truly felt I'd let everybody down. I, honest to God, felt I have lived the worst life. These kids are never going to recover from this. I don't see a point in my life right now. I'm not making any contributions. I truly have nothing to live for, right? And so did a couple of dry runs, set everything out, got all of my keys in order, all my, I mean, truly passwords, everything, and laid it all out. And here's the weirdest thing to tell you. And I don't want anyone to feel concerned that I'm not being emotional now because it doesn't resonate. It doesn't generate
Right.
for me now.
Yeah.
At the time, I couldn't have been more calm. So there wasn't crying.
Okay.
There wasn't
Yeah.
there wasn't this feeling. There was just, okay, this is the right thing
You're
to
on
do.
a mission.
So this is okay. Just make it easy for people. And then I sent an email scheduled to Linda that said, this is the worst email you're going to receive, but I don't want anyone to find me except you, or at least for you to call the authorities. I don't want my kids to have to find it. But I want to let you know, and you know, an email, you can time the message to go delivered at a certain date.
Yeah.
So it'd be the day later, right? If you don't mind calling the Naperville police. And then I'd like you to know that all these, I trust you so much to handle the sequence, right? And then it felt calming. And so I was going to do it New Year's Eve. So this is probably the 29th or 30th where I had organized it, I'd game planned it. And I kept trying to say, all right, if something tells me, let me tell you a quick story, because of course there's nothing slow with me or quick with me ever. I went to Loyola and we were required to take 9 hours of theology, so 3 classes as part of graduating.
Okay.
And so studied the classics and then also studied with this one professor that was hard to get in his class, but he was beautiful, but it was all about love and relationships. And he told this story, whether it's true or not, it was his parable about how a young man was walking from one part of New York to the next. And we got to the Brooklyn Bridge. If just one person said hello to him, he wasn't going to kill himself.
Okay.
And so it ends with him getting to the edge of the Brooklyn Bridge, but we don't hear what happened. But all the way, no one says hello.
Okay.
And so the kind of the story was, you never know what someone's going through. So sometimes just a hello on a street may change someone's path.
That's a good point.
So I told myself, if you guys know Naperville, where I was living was by Mason Sabika. I am a block away from that bridge. I went, okay, if someone just says Merry Christmas or hello to me or something,
Yeah,
I'm going to walk all the way to Washington, up this way by that pool and back.
Okay.
If someone says something to me, that's someone telling me I want you to stay here. Believe it or not, I was all ready for that. And so I pack up my bag and also the kind of stuff. And out of nowhere, I turn on the TV.
Okay.
For some reason, I want to watch TV. And Chip and Joanna Gaines come on, and it's their year-end episode. And they're taking listener questions. And he's a goofball.
Right.
And every time I watched his show, I felt that was me. And I'm going to get emotional. I was like, how did he get that? How did he get someone that sees him, right?
Yeah.
And in there, Joanna gets a question. And the question says simply this: does Chip get annoying with all of his antics? How do you handle it? Because you seem to laugh. Are those laughs real? And she starts laughing and she said, I don't know what I would do without him. He cracks me up all the time. And I said, this is when I paused and I went, there's got to be someone that can see me. Yeah. I have to believe there's someone that's going to see me. And I said, someone told me to turn on the TV. Whatever you believe in, something told me to turn on the TV and watch that particular moment where that was the very last question. And I went, someone's going to see me one day. Someone's going to see me. And then my phone rings and it's my sister.
Wow.
And she goes, okay, you keep saying you don't want to do anything, because my sister was having friends over at her place in Lake Delavan, but they were all couples and they all had little kids. My sister's 7 years younger than me. Her oldest is essentially as old as my youngest.
Okay.
So there's just a big generation, and I felt really uncomfortable being around a bunch of 10 and 11 and 12-year-olds.
Sure.
So she calls, the show happens, and then I sat back and went, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, right? Because someone out there is going to see me. That's all I wanted, was to be seen. Because this is the deepest I'll go about my marriage. I never felt seen.
Okay.
I never really felt that she got me. In my notes, I wanted to remind you that my sister said these exact words, because here's how it ties what you asked.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
My sister used to say to my ex-wife, you never understood what it was like to be married to my brother. He is someone that gets in the car, doesn't know where he's going, but trusts that the ride is going to be a blast. And you always needed to know where he was going. And my brother's the type that goes, what's over there? Let's go try that out.
Yeah.
And you never understood that about my brother. And so I felt at that moment when I watched that Joanna and Chip exchange that there's got to be someone that wants to go on this ride with me in life, no matter who it is. It doesn't have to be a partner as much as just somebody see me.
Yeah.
The phone rings, it's my sister. And she goes, I know you don't want to be here. I know you are miserable right now, but just please be with me because I don't want you to be alone. And I'm really worried about you because I can sense something. And she goes, I can sense something. And I went, I'm getting in the car right now. And I swear to God, now here's what's really funny. I'm in a Mini Cooper in December driving to Delavan, and I'm going, I'm going to get in a fucking car accident. I've just come to this epiphany that I belong here, and a semi is going to roll over me, or the car is going to wipe out. So I'm basically taking every side street going 25 miles an hour, like with hazards on.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I got to her house, and no one knew, and I'm sure there are some people that might watch this now and have no clue. I came home, tore it up, and I never really spoke about it again. Linda knew about it, my therapist, for sure. Kathy knows about it. I'm willing to bet a lot of people don't know about it, but that was what happened to me, and it was just this. Something told me to turn on that TV. I'm convinced. I don't know why. I was truly as calm as anything. I even went out and got Depends because I know that when something like that happens, the body just releases all the internal fluids. And I don't want to make a mess. So but it was so calm. And then something told me, well, just sit down, turn on the TV for a second, and then go out there. I think it was maybe a clock thing. Like I want to make sure it was dark enough, right? Or late enough.
Right.
And then I watched that show, and yeah, so there's your story.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And believe me, there were moments when it happened again where I went, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
I do feel strong that there's some genetic stuff that just swirls in our family history.
Right.
That, but I will tell you, it did rear its ugly head about 3 years ago, and so I had to be. You want to hear this story? Want me to go even deeper for you? Want to hear another one?
Yeah, we're here.
So it's all about despondency, and I'm going to keep coming back to what you asked. It wasn't until I was 55 years old that a lot of enlightenment came to me.
Yeah.
And so had that happen early in my divorce, carved my way out of it, figured out the therapy piece, had that moment, went, okay, there's a reason you're here, worked through it all, and then finally got to a place where I could start dating again, had some great relationships and experiences, and then met someone. And had never met someone like this, thought it was the end all. We were together. I was telling your dad this earlier, so I wanted to bridge this. And then pretty much out of nowhere, she goes, I'm out. I can't do it. Then I remember going back to my therapist going, what the fuck? I did everything right. Like I've been calm, Jack. The 10-year-old boy doesn't show up. And she said to me, yep. And I went, what are you talking about? Yep. This is fucking bullshit. And I went, this can't be happening again, right? I'm doing all the right things. Like what the?
Yeah.
And admittedly got massively depressed again. And that's when I told your dad this. I went on this huge sojourn. I'm like, fuck that. I'm out. I'm getting out. I'm clearing my head. And it wasn't fuck women. It was more, I have got to sort out this life, and you can call it whatever you want. And I told your dad this, and I'm going to say it now again. And I really don't. This is where the 10-year-old's coming out. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks about it. I know what it meant for me. There were 2 camps in my life. I literally sold everything. I built this beautiful house that I remodeled, sold everything. If it didn't fit in my SUV, it wasn't coming with me. Took a long trip to Arizona, 4 or 5 days to get there, mountain biked along the way, and said, I got to find out who I am. Still kept my job, worked my ass off at it, did a massive installation for a huge project. So I didn't stop being functional, right? But it was more, what is going on with my life? Like something's not clicking. Live in Arizona for a stretch, come home at Christmas time, and then I'm scheduled to move back out to Colorado. Okay. And where I'm going with this, 2 camps. He's lost his mind, or good for you. In my mind, good for me. I needed to clear out the clutter. And for anyone that said you've lost your mind, to this day, I'm a little grudgy. To this day, it's about, the part of me goes, F off. You don't get it. And until you've been there, don't talk to me about what it's like to be on that edge.
Right.
So, but this is where the evolution came into place. But during that time, when I left Arizona and came back to Chicago, the ex called me up and said, I missed you. And I went back into that dungeon again because I figured, oh my God, she's seen the light. And then 3 days later, I went, I can't do this, via text. And I went, you're a loser. So I didn't blame her anymore. I blamed me. I went, you're a fucking loser. You're a sap. You're never going to get out of this. And I get really sick with COVID. Didn't know I had it, but I called Linda up and I said, I need help big time. I need to be around other men that are going through this because I can't stand being around women. They don't get it. And I don't know any men who are experiencing these things. She says, go to this hospital in Aurora. It's really good for this. They have therapy sessions and group sessions. So I get in there, and you didn't hear this story, so it's be
Aurora,
fascinating.
Colorado, or
Aurora? I'm back in Chicago for just this
Aurora.
window,
Okay.
little window.
Yep.
Missed New Year's Eve, by the way. So it's a New Year's Eve thing all over again.
Okay.
And so I go to this Aurora, Illinois hospital.
Okay.
And I sit down with this therapist, and I said, my therapist said to come here. There's a group session. Just want to meet with other men, blah, blah, blah. And they start asking very stereotypical questions. Have you ever thought about killing yourself? Of course I have. Have you ever processed? Well, sure. I did it like this. Now, my intellectual brain is just going, I'm just sharing.
Sure.
Right? You're just getting data so you can assess me. Do you know when you say, at least in Illinois, if you tell someone, have you thought about how you're going to do it? You're instantly arrested.
Whoa.
So that moment, she goes, can you hold on a second? I just get some stuff. 2 paramedics come in and 4 police officers. And I went, what is going on? And I'm thinking, did I hurt somebody? Right? Did I miss something? And they said, sorry, sir, but once you talk about how you would do it. And I went, wait a minute. You asked if I ever considered the ways to do it. And I had said to her, well, I thought about using a gun, but that's really messy. I don't want to do it to anybody. And plus, I don't like guns and I don't want to do it.
Right.
But you see how I'm answering it? You're laughing because you know how I'm answering it.
I do.
Right? I'm answering
Right.
intellectually.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Right.
And you're just trying to help her out.
Yeah.
Correct. Great
Yep.
answer.
Yep.
And so the cops come there, and I went, all right, want to talk to my lawyer or want to talk to my therapist, but this ain't happening. No, we have to put you in the hospital. You have to come in with us, and you have COVID because they tested everybody. Wow. And so I went, this isn't going to happen. And the police come by and they start to put their arms around me. And I went, guys, this isn't Mission Impossible. I'm not going to break out of here, run through the snow and hide for the next 6 months and get retribution. Can we breathe? Instantly, bam, right around the wrists. They go, I to take you with you. And they lock me to the gurney. I go in the hospital. They want to put an IV in me to calm me down. Not kidding any of this. I said, take my heart rate right now. I'm a former EMT. If I was this worked up, I'd be at 120 beats per minute right now. I'm at 70. I said, you got me on the meter. I'm at 70. I do not need any drugs. So now I'm going, ready for this? I'm going, Linda, what the fuck? Right? Because I'm blaming people.
Yeah.
Going, I just want to be with guys.
Yeah.
I was there for 8 days. In a hospital. The only thing that saved me, I will say, this is one part of the story I'm fearful of. If they watch it, they're going to come after me. But this is where my intellect took over, and I went, all right, you have got to be on your game now, dude. You can't talk about life lessons. Jack 10-year-old cannot show up because all it's going to do,
Sure.
it's going to be kindling for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to sit there and go, you guys are brilliant doctors. Oh my God, you've helped me so much. Even though in my mind I'm going, knuckleheads.
Yeah.
So I get taken to the hospital. Everything's taken away from me. I'm put in a cell. And by the way, if there's anything our health services organization should do is not exacerbate problems. I get it. I might have been a unique case study, but they put me in this cell that was the size of what you would see in a prison cell. I had a window that was 12 by 12.
Wow.
It's winter, it's cold, it's dreary, it's not like this. There was a toilet in the room, and then right behind the toilet was a curtain with a shower. And so
That sounds like it would exacerbate the problem.
100%. So I realized if I tell them, you guys are getting this wrong, it's check mark,
Sure.
right?
Right.
He's an irascible figure. We can't control him. He's a danger. So I don't know what I got in me, but I went leverage COVID. So what happened was because I had COVID, I was supposed to be in a ward with everybody else, but they had a special ward for COVID because back then no one clearly knew.
Yeah.
So it was me and one other person in this big empty ward, and then there was a receptionist sitting right outside that. And so the doctors would come in with masks, and they would be masked. So it was just me by myself. So all that went through my mind was any receptionist, befriend them, learn their name, befriend them, get them to love you so they say nice things about you. Try not to act like it. Stay on your game. And then I told myself, this is really funny. I went leverage COVID. So anything that comes up, just go, oh man, I got a really bad headache. God, COVID is crushing me. Anything I could do just to get them to empathize with me.
Yeah.
And so then they came in and said, we want to put you on XYZ drugs. And by the way, I never took any mood stabilizing drugs. They always had a very negative effect on me. And so when I'm on the phone with Linda, she sent me a code message, and I hope I don't get her in trouble or anyone else. She said, I just need you to be smart and safe right now, which she had said to me before in therapy, which was smart and safe, was don't act like the 10-year-old boy. He's okay. Remember, you're okay. It's not your fault.
Right.
So that was her reminder to don't let him show his face. So I do love telling this part of the story because there's intrigue, but it was truly survival. And to your point, David, I'm going the whole time, how did they possibly think this is helpful? Right? To confine me even more with my own thoughts.
Yeah.
I was given food on a regular basis, and then they would come in the morning. The TA doctors or interns would interview me, young kids, dumb as fuck. They just were. They had no it was so textbook.
Yeah.
Oh, you look like you're bipolar too. And I'd go, oh, fucking A, you got to get out. So they would come by, then the doctor would come by in the afternoon, and then they would hand me drugs. So I'm very good at hiding gum because when I was in high school, I used to hide gum way up in my mouth up here to chew gum. And I would hide gum because I love chewing gum.
Yeah.
Wow. So they'd give me the pills. I'd toss it back like this, put it in my corner of my mouth and go, because they made you do that.
Yeah.
And then I would go, can I take a shower now? And they'd say, sure. And so I'd go take a shower, spit it down the drain and wait for it to work out.
Yep.
And then I would ask them, what are the side effects of the drugs? How am I supposed to feel from this? Like, what should I be experiencing? That's all they had to tell me. They gave me a sheet and I went, act it.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, oh,
You're a movie.
I would go like this. I am getting a bad stomach ache. And they'd say, what can we get you? And I would say little things like, can I just have some water? Or can I maybe get some potatoes? And they'd hand it to me. And then the doctor would come by and interview me. And I went, all right, you got to be a little stressed. Like you can't be so calm now. And so I was there for 8 days.
Wow. 16 days in total.
No, 8 days with them.
Yeah, I meant including the hospital, which was also 8 days.
That was all 8 days.
Oh,
it was all
okay.
8 days. The
I got
whole
you.
thing, the hospital, and then the ward.
Yeah.
Was all 8 days. Yeah. So I do remember I hung up I got out of there. My daughter picked me up. Like I was, if you can imagine, it was just get the fuck out. We got in the car. I went, oh my God. Cause I'm still to this day, as I tell the story, fearful that they've got some record on me and I'm going to get handcuffed because I didn't take my pills.
Right.
But I remember Linda called me right away, and I could only talk to one person. So Linda was my conduit to tell everyone what's going on. And so I made sure to talk, because they were listening in. How's things going? You know, I'm learning a lot, Linda. You know, the things you taught. The doctor came by yesterday. He would say some things, and I'd go, I don't know if I agree with you on that. Because I figured I had to share myself a little bit. But
Masterful.
okay, so why do I tell all that long story? I went out and went, never fucking again, ever. Right? I'm going to go to Linda, but I'm not going to do this again. And holy shit, did the universe send you a message? Knock it off. So I go to Colorado, and I was telling your dad this story. I went, dude, if you want your life to be different, you have done the same thing your whole fucking life. You're the only common denominator.
Yep.
If you want everything to change, you have to change today.
Yep.
You have to do everything differently because you keep getting the same results. It's 20 divided by 2. It's 10. It's 40 divided by 2. It's even numbers. You got to be a 3 on the denominator. That's the only way you're going to get different outcomes. You're going to get odd numbers, you get something different. And I told your dad it's the first time ever that the movie The Secret clicked, the universe clicked with me. And ever since then, to really wrap this up, I'm in a beautiful relationship with my second wife. And I swear I say this to her almost every day. If at some point in your life you feel that our relationship is holding you back and you need to experience other things, I am your biggest fan. I will support you 1000% at the risk of my own pain. Because I know what that pain looks like, but I also do not ever want to be an impediment to your life, your success. You have your journey here. I can't guarantee where I'm going to be, if it's another man you want to be with or something else, but I will never be your impediment. I will applaud you leaving. And she says back to me, same. And it is the most comforting feeling to know that it took me to be 55 years old to go through all of these things to realize I have zero control over everything except my reaction to circumstances. And I can now have this fulfilled life. It's not going to prevent death. It's not going to prevent people that I love being hurt. It's not going to prevent me from getting injured playing basketball. So it truly took me going into the hospital, going out to Colorado, and realizing, holy shit, the universe has been acting in my favor this whole time, and I never paid attention to it. How about that for answering your question about take me back to the day you decided to end your life?
Wow. Well, that's what I was
It
looking for.
happened twice.
Yeah.
It truly happened twice.
Yeah.
And I can honestly tell you, God, I hope it doesn't happen again where I get that upset. I can imagine terrible things happening.
Yeah.
But I truly believe I have some reason to be here.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet either. I'll figure it out when it's over, I guess.
You gotta stay in the present, man. You got a lot. You got a lot of wonderful wisdom to give people.
It is.
You do.
I have to tell you this. My middle child had a bout with this and attempted suicide as well, and not bashful about talking about it. Neither is she. I'm going to visit her this week.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I learned a lot from her personal struggles. And I do remember the therapist there when she was in an institution for a while, close to 4 weeks. They had said something to me. I want to just give you my answer. I can't remember the question, but I can give you my answer. And they started crying because they had said no parent had ever said this before. I said, if I could rewind the clock and live a day over and over again, as when you were 10 years old and we did XYZ, it was a memory that they remember really well.
Yeah.
I said, if I could live that day over and over again, I would. It wouldn't progress my life anywhere, and I'd miss out on so many other things I know have now come and gone. But I would live it over and over again just to have you. But if you don't want to be here, I get it. So if you don't want to be here, I get it. And I don't want you to stay if you don't want to be here. Because I want you to be peaceful. And it would kill me to see you leave here because someone is going to be impacted by you in a way that you don't understand yet.
Right.
And if you can believe that that exists out there, then just stay one more day. But if you can't call me and say, I really don't want to be here anymore, but I love you. I said, that's all I ask. I just want to be able to say goodbye to you. Yeah. And the nurses are bawling. Everyone's getting upset. They have never heard someone, it came across as if I was giving her permission.
That's right.
Because I was saying, if you're not happy here, I understand that better than anybody on the planet. Yeah. I don't want you to leave. And I've come out on the other side of it.
Yeah.
the pain that resides behind it is brutal. But I'm very comfortable talking about this topic. I do not have the answers. I will never profess to be an expert. I will only tell you
Yeah.
what I experienced and how it's profoundly changed my life.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's it's really amazing to me, guys. You sent a Christmas letter and you asked for my home address, and it leads to us having this conversation. And God damn it, I really mean this. I hope one fucking person who's struggling with shit and right now goes, I'm in a bad place, male or female, I don't give a shit what you are, going, all right, if that goofball jackass can make it through, then so can I. And that's it. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, if you want a full stop right there, we can. But that's your answer.
Yeah. So a couple things I'll say. So, I mean, I've shared, other people know that I'm divorced as well.
Mhm.
And when that day when my former wife said that this was her decision, I literally fell apart.
Mhm.
And the first counsel that I went to, excuse me, was terrific. And she said, John, the first thing you have to recognize is that adults respect the decisions of other adults. And the fact that,
punch.
yeah. And she said, what you're dealing with is you don't respect her decision. And what you just talked about with your daughter is that you were respecting her decision because she's an adult.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that those are really hard, but it communicates some level of maturity that I think most people don't have, because we want to have people, we want to control them. And the way we control them is, whether emotions or, some logic and arguments or money, all the things that we want to keep people into our orbit rather than let them have their own orbit. And
that's beautifully said.
that was a first learning moment for me. And I think the second thing that I took a note on is that I think many people have heard this, but it's worth saying again, is that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. And when you were at that point, especially when you had this woman that came in your life twice, right? And I think that it hurts so bad because it wasn't that she was expressing hate toward you. She was expressing indifference.
Clearly. Yeah.
And indifference is just so hurtful, right? Because you're ignored. You're no longer, like you said, I want to be seen.
Yep.
But you're not being seen.
Yep.
Because they don't care.
That's right.
Right.
That's a great way to say it. It's brutal.
And so when I hear you talking about your story, and I think when you get to depression and all the steps that lead up to that, to where you start making some pretty bad decisions, I think a lot of that has to do with no one cares about me. And that's because you feel that they've been indifferent to you.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, because I'm willing to bet if everyone was sitting around, they go, wait a minute, we love you.
Yeah.
And what I learned through all of this stuff, it's been eye-opening for me, and I am for sure a work in progress. I even say to Kathy sometimes, hey, I'm reading this thing in a book, so I may sound scripted.
Right.
So I'm going to try some things out, but I want to see how it lands.
Right.
What I actually do with my kids now in particular, is I'll say these words because I'll say these words. My instinct is always to help and solve.
Yeah.
I'll say, do you need me to listen with the need to respond, or you just need me to be present right now? And I have found that has transformed all of my relationships because they instantly feel seen, because what I'm saying to them is, dictate how you want me to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Right? I do it at work. Hell, there's a woman that said at work that I used to say the word think too often. So she would say to me, do you have any feelings at all? I'd go, what the fuck is she talking about? She said, because everything with you is, well, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. And so I have practiced now even saying, how does that make everyone here feel? Does I'll feel good about this or not? And it changed the dynamic. It's awkward for me to say it, but it gets to what I feel David likes is that choose your hard, right?
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I felt no one saw me,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Getting back to my sister calling me, I felt she saw me because she said, I
Right.
feel something's not right. Can you
Yeah.
just please, I want you near me,
Yeah.
right? That's when, okay, someone sees me.
Right.
Um, that's why I'm not trying to do a promo for our stuff, but we're going to have you on our show.
Right.
And it's about relationships. And you even mentioned that one of the biggest things you took from our conversation that Kathy and I have is being seen.
Yeah.
So it's
and being cheerleaders. I think that's the
it's
being your spouse's cheerleader is, they've got your back, I think was the term you guys used. And that's so important.
I've learned to be very comfortable with, let me take it a step further. I told my sister, my mother, and others when I went through all this, I went, here's the deal.
Right.
I need you to understand how I want you to respond to me. When we start having conversations, I'm going to lead with, I need you to be present right now.
Yep.
Because I'm not going to put that on you to know to ask the question, but I'm going to lead with it. So I'll say to my sister or mom to this day, right now, I just need you to be present. It's really important that you listen without the need to respond.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how you feel about all that. It changes the dynamic of things, and it's.
Oh, I mean, I love it. I mean, that's the maybe a book I will give to you because you probably quite enjoy it. It's called Don't Split the Difference. And I can go into the context of it later. It doesn't matter right now. But
I don't want you to go anywhere.
Okay.
I want you to hold that for 1 second.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you how.
Does he have the book?
I'm going to tell you how fucking freaky this world is. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful book.
No, that's so okay.
For those just listening, he literally just walked to his backpack and he took out the very book I just mentioned.
Yeah.
That's the universe right there. That's messed up. This is my second or third read through it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's awesome.
You can summarize the entire book in one thing, and everything else just comes from that one thing. And you've said that many times, but using different words. If you want someone to listen to you, or you want to comfort someone, or you want to negotiate with someone, it doesn't matter. Almost any conversation. The number one goal you must have is to make someone say yes. It's not to make them say no. It's not to make them understand you. It's to make them say, that's right. That's right.
That's right.
Because as soon as, yep. Because as soon as someone says that, they are saying, okay, you came down to my well and you listened to me and you clearly understand what I just said. Otherwise I wouldn't say that. And now we can have an actual discussion because I'm respecting what you're going to say next. Because you took the time to do that, I will reciprocate that respect back to you.
I am so envious of you, and I really mean that. Not in a bad biblical way of envy and all that stuff. I'm maybe admirable is a better way. I admire you a lot right now, and also I'm a little envious. I'm so glad that you have these insights at your age stage of life, because I'm grateful for where I am. This is a dialectic, right? I'm really grateful that I'm here at this place. I see things better than I used to. And then my brain also has the natural habit of going, God, can you imagine if I had just had this clarity, right?
Yeah, at 30.
Yeah,
Right.
how much maybe I would have approached things differently. Who knows, right? We don't know. But I'm glad that you see this. This is truly, I brought this as a third read through, just as a reminder. I went, all right, I got to freshen up on some of these things that worked.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff, all the things I'm talking about,
Right.
to have someone at work. There's a woman who's been working for me for 8 years. She's my favorite employee. Absolutely stunning, super smart. Like any other person, lacks confidence in certain areas. And so learned to leverage her strength. I had to do Clifton Strength Finders. We're going to do all these things. I had to do love languages, so I knew how to talk to her. I said, I'm going to dive in all. I'm really going to get into this.
Yeah.
But there was one day when she was pissing me off. She doesn't like to fly, and I was the biggest dick in the world. This is 7.5 years ago. If she ever listens to it, she'll nod. I think I told you this story. Maybe I did. Maybe I told
Go
you
ahead.
both. She doesn't like to fly. She was super late on a project. I asked her what was going on at home. I could tell she just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, we got to do things we don't want to do sometimes.
Yep.
So I said, I called up our receptionist in New York and I said, I'm going to send you airline tickets that I've paid for and you're to print them out. I paid for them with refundable stuff.
Yeah.
And you're going to put them on her desk because I've had it. And so she came in the next morning and tickets were sitting there, calls me. She goes, "What's this? Your ass is in Chicago by Friday if you don't get this shit done." She goes, "That's 4 days." I'm like, "You have had 2 months to finish it. I've had it. Or walk. I can't do this anymore. I'm not." That's the old Jack, right?
Yeah.
Crying, tears. And I did this on the phone. Don't give a shit about your tears. Click.
Yep.
This is just 8 years ago,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
that got me success, right? No one's going to tell me to do it.
Right.
We still talk about that to this day
Mm.
because
She stayed.
she got the work done. And then afterward, she called me and she said it was the meanest thing anyone's ever done to me. And she had the courage to say specifically what was mean about it. And I remember being so introspective going, "You can't do this anymore."
Yeah.
To this day, we truly laugh because she'll say, "I can't believe the person you have become."
Right.
And so you asked me the question, how do you feel you can get someone to believe in change?
Mhm.
I mean, you said energy, but how do you get someone to really believe that they can go from cantankerous assload to right without losing themselves? Do you guys have an answer for that? Or is it just purely your why when you feel it's ready?
Do you want to take it or?
Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing starts with you have to have someone else that believes in you. Because it doesn't. I mean, the Henry Cloud and many other psychologists all the time have talked about. I mean, you can't expect that you can do the same thing over and over again and think there's going to be a different result. And there's this beautiful thing called grace. Now, do you know what the difference between grace and mercy is? Okay. So mercy is I'm not going to give you what you deserve. Grace is seeing you need this. And I'm going to come down to your level and I'm going to give you what you need. And a lot of times it takes someone to have grace to you because they have to be that new input.
Right.
That's so cool.
And when someone does that, that's when someone can change. But if you don't have that, it is an immensely, Prometheus level problem. And it is very hard.
God, great. Yeah. Wow.
I'll give you a couple things I want to tie together with that. You were talking about early on relationships, and I think something that men just in general are just really suck at, and that is relationships at this kind of level with other men. I laugh sometimes when I see people reaching out to me, whether or not they're looking for a job or whatever, because I don't hear from them other than they're looking for a job. And, you can kind of see it on LinkedIn because they haven't updated their profile in 10 years. And then all of a sudden they update their profile, right? You can see all of those signs of just, lack of understanding what's important and building networks, like we were saying earlier. But I think men in general just don't get it until you get to some hard time. And maybe you're lucky enough to see it in someone else and you don't have to experience it yourself. But to know that someone has your back, and I'll tell you kind of a funny story. Right in the midst of all this crazy stuff going on in my life about 2.5 years ago, I was having some trouble with my new car that I had bought, which is my RAV4.
One of those, of course, moments.
Yeah,
right?
and I bought it at CarMax,
Right.
and so the car was used. Didn't know and there was some rattle thing going on, which, by the way, is still we never figured out what the problem was.
That's great.
But I needed to get up to my sister's house that I was living at up in Lake Geneva, and I had my car in for service, and I needed a car to get out of Dodge because I had no place to live other than there, right? So I go into CarMax, and I talk to the service manager, the guy behind the desk that's whatever, and I said, "This is what's going on with the car." And he's like, "Well, man, I can't get you in here, blah, blah, blah." And I said, I said, hey, man, let me tell you, I'm going through a divorce. This is the situation. I have to
Yeah.
get up to Lake Geneva,
Oh,
blah,
I
blah,
love
blah.
it.
So he goes, Joe, come on over here. So Joe comes over and he says, our friend John is going through a divorce, just like both of us are going through a divorce. And he says, I got you.
See?
I got you.
Yeah.
And he said, go pick out that car right there. It's got a iPass on it.
Yeah.
Drive it however, you got it, right?
Yeah.
And don't worry about what the return is. We'll fit you in here. I'll give you a call when your car's ready, but it'll probably be a week.
We were all 10-year-old little boys that wanted
Yeah.
our mom and to sit on a lap and to say as we get older that doesn't exist in us is bullshit.
Yeah.
Look at you right now and how you're reacting to this.
Yeah.
One of the things that Kathy loves about me is she knows that anyone fucks with her, I'm going to throw their face into a wall. It's that simple.
Right.
I would crush someone if anyone did anything to my family. I don't care what happens to me.
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm not going to cry because I watched The Sound of Music. Right?
Yeah.
The
thing that is upsetting to me is that men have to get to that level of despair to recognize that there's a bond among us.
Yeah. And the weird thing, I don't know how you feel about this right now. We talk about it often, Kathy and I, that
Right.
I don't want to talk about white men problems because, once again,
Sure.
right, everyone else has
Right.
been marginalized, but we're struggling. I just feel that men need to talk to men more frequently and better.
Definitely. Right.
It's not we're going to elevate one in spite of the other. It's
Sure.
we need to talk among ourselves better.
Right.
We need to communicate. We need to be, to me, that's the definition of being a better man.
Right.
You can still be a provider.
Yeah.
Right. And all those other factors.
Right.
There's a guy named Scott Galloway. You probably listen to him. He talks about every man should be able to beat up everyone in a bar or be the fastest one out of there and know the difference, but never start the fight.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Real men don't start fights.
Right.
They solve them.
Mm-hmm.
And we just don't talk well together. I would love to be an instrument of change for that in some way.
Yeah.
That's why, we joked that I've got a very good friend who's trying to give me an opportunity to do a TED Talk about how an average guy like me bags a model. Now the name is just right.
That's the next thing on my list.
How average Joe bags a model, right?
Right.
That's more just to get people to pay attention because that title is going to work. That's the
Right.
marketer in me, right?
Yeah, it's important.
Right.
But it's really about it's confidence and tenderness at the same time.
Right.
I'm not saying that's what every female wants or in a heteronormative relationship, but by and large, that's what success is.
Mm-hmm.
Even among us, there's really good. One of my best friends, when I went back out with that woman that led me to the hospital, right? When we were together, he truly said, "What are you doing with her?" And he went, "I can't stand this. You are not the same person you are."
Right.
And I had one of those, dude, you don't get it, sorting things out.
Right.
And he truly leaned in and went, "I'm worried about you because she messes you up."
Yeah.
But there's the first time he's like, "I care about you," right? I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You have an advantage now, young man. Be better messengers.
Yeah. I will have to say that the saving thing for me is I did have a lot of friends, and I have made it just a part of me is staying in touch with people.
Yep.
And so I was able to really tap into a lot of friends very, very early on. One is who was out here. And I saw something in people that I have never, ever seen before. And that is this whole notion of hospitality. I never was, it wasn't something that I saw as a child. So I never experienced this, but I was trying to figure out where I wanted to live. And so I was traveling all over the place.
And you went to Florida.
I remember.
Right,
Everywhere.
Scottsdale,
California,
out here, up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And there were people that I knew, but I wouldn't say, I wouldn't call them my best friend at the time. And I would show up, and their first question is, which car do you want to drive?
Yeah. Right.
They'd throw me the keys to the car
Yeah.
and say,
Yep.
I had one friend who just said, we're going to be gone for a week. Enjoy the house.
Yep.
I've never had anyone
Yep.
like that level of hospitality
Yep.
to just open up your house
Yep.
without care.
Mm-hmm.
That was really something.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get it. I had it too. I really did.
Yeah.
I will tell you, John, the only thing I miss is I wish I had another dude that was going through divorce, because the only thing that was the hard part for me,
Right.
I truly only had one friend that went through a divorce,
Yeah.
but he had gone through a divorce 25 years earlier.
Sure.
And it was a 2-year marriage. It was really fast. It was
Right.
in his 20s. Right. And you and I both had lengthy marriages.
Right.
But yes, the amount of people that came to our sides, people don't realize how when you are divorced, let me see if this resonates with you. It's no longer the end of the marriage. This is how I view it, at least. It's no longer the marriage is over. It's the future is gone.
Right. Yeah.
You don't, someone to retire with, someone to go to the movies with, someone
Sure.
to someone to someone to someone to.
Right. Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
what you really are lamenting is you are suddenly in the matrix and you're
Right.
sitting in a blank room going, now what?
Yeah. Sure.
And it's a grossly empty feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, I'm glad
Yeah.
you had a ton of friends and family around you like that, or whatever you had to help you.
Yeah. And I think for me, it was a great opportunity to really understand a lot more about myself. Like
Yeah.
you're talking about the common denominator and really work on myself. And, just it's been, honestly, it's been great.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's you
after a turning point, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
you come out on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I think I've got to, I mean, we have so many questions. I think you are probably making us rethink our initial assessment that we'll never have a guest back on the show, because we probably have to have
Why?
you get back on at some point. I mean, because there's so much
Oh,
more. I mean,
I-
the concept of hard knocks, I mean, you talk about them, there's not as much of an opinion to go back to people all the time. And I mean, we could spend another 2 hours going through here, but my kind of thought, to the dismay of a lot of people, probably listening to get to this point, I think it kind of water it down at this point. And so I kind of, I
love
want
that
to,
phrase.
I want to end it how we always do, which is first, because you brought something to share, if you want to talk about that for a little bit, and then I'll turn you over to all the cameras, because we love to let you do two things, which is one, you can promote whatever you want. You've gone this far. You can say whatever you want, so long as it doesn't get us completely demonetized.
I will tell you, having watched your podcast, this was the piece I didn't want to do. Believe
Okay.
it or not. I can do it. I went, I don't want to.
Okay, then I'll ask you just a
So
question.
is that okay?
That's fine. Then I'll just ask you the question I would really love you to do.
Okay.
For all the people listening right now, what is I mean, we talked about so much wisdom here. For people who got to the end, what would be that one piece of wisdom that, say your kid's watching this 20 years from now and stealing your line when we were with Marty, or people that you knew a long time ago and now don't anymore, maybe they find this. What's the piece of wisdom? Or, those people that are, I don't know, maybe they're 15 years old and they're just finding themselves for the first time.
Or your grandkids, after your great grandkids that are going to watch this, because YouTube is going to outlive you.
No doubt.
So what would you say to them right now?
I'm literally looking at all of the list of things here that I've said to people over time. I'm gonna go here because I think it had the biggest impact on my kids, I believe. My daughter, so much so, my oldest, that she got the word. It was her first tattoo, which that was a "What are you doing, kid?" And then of course now I have multiple. But she got the word CROIRE, croix, which is French for belief. Because I used to always tell them, and I have to remind myself of it.
Yeah.
That you can move mountains with whatever you believe. It's truly possible. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean you won't have challenges. But belief is everything. It is truly in my soul. And that when I went through all that, I just said, I believe I'm going to have a better life. And that was it, period. And I had to accept all the potholes that I'd run through and enjoy and embrace and give thanks to all the smooth roads and sunshiny days and warm weather and all that stuff. But if I believe shit's going to happen, shit's going to happen. I'm going to get exactly what I believe. And so if anyone's out there trying to wonder what or if, just believe. And by the way, if you believe bad things, you're going to get bad things. So I know that it had a big impact on my kids, and they're my focus.
Yeah.
And so belief, it's truly everything.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I got to end it by, I've been wanting to give you a hug this entire time.
Oh, well, that's the nicest thing.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Well, it means a lot to me. I'm truly so honored. I really am. Your dad was one of the first guys that believed in me. I don't even remember how we met, but I know I enjoyed working with you and your team. You guys are really doing something well here. I really mean it. And I can't wait to see the next guests you have, because they're probably have a lot more insightful than me.
It
But
probably won't be as fun as this one.
I doubt it. But I would like you to do more tactical stuff, because or else just call me.
Yeah.
Because I really did appreciate that.
I think that's in the cards.
You guys are amazing. Please keep up the good work. However I can promote this in any way for you, not this particular podcast, I mean anything.
Okay. Thanks.
I believe in what you're doing. If you want more guests, I know a ton of people that you'd love to meet. So however I can propagate this for you, I really mean it.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, sounds like
Thank you.
we'll have fun talking over dinner or something like that about it.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple ideas in particular I think you might.
We will make some
like.
loose plans.
Sounds good.
Good. You guys rock.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.